Beloved, you carry burdens unseen, yet deeply felt the weight of karma, accumulated not only in this life but stretched across countless lifetimes. This weight may feel crushing, as if you are trapped in chains forged by your own past mistakes and misdeeds. Yet, I tell you now, this weight is an illusion, a shadow cast by fear and ignorance. Karma is not your prison, but a teacher, a force designed to awaken you from the dream of separation and to lead you back to the freedom of your divine nature. Imagine chains dissolving in the fire's embrace, the links melting away until only light remains. So too does the fire of divine grace consume the bonds of karma when kindled by devotion and spiritual practice. Or see a heavy cloak dropped into the wind, lifted away until you stand bare and free under the vast sky. This is the reality awaiting you, liberation from all that weighs down the soul. I speak to you with compassion, knowing the fears that bind you, and with hope, knowing the power within you to break free. The journey begins with the recognition that karma's weight is not insurmountable, and that a divine tool exists to burn it away. This tool is not distant or complex. It lies within the sacred vibration of mantra, the living sound that awakens the soul and ignites the fire of purification. Beloved, let me now guide you to this divine fire, so that you may hold the key to your own liberation and begin the sacred practice that will transform your life. Beloved, the sacred mantra is the divine fire, a flame kindled in the heart of the cosmos and breathed into the soul through sound. It is more than mere words. It is the living essence of the divine vibration that burns away the shadows of karma and ignites the light of liberation within you. When chanted with focused devotion and pure intention, this mantra awakens the dormant power of God's presence in your being, setting ablaze the accumulated residues of past actions that no longer serve your highest good. Imagine a flame consuming dry leaves fallen from ancient trees. Each flicker reduces the weight of old burdens until the earth beneath is fertile and ready for new life. Or picture the sun rising slowly, melting the morning frost, releasing the earth from its frozen sleep, and inviting the vibrant renewal of spring. Such is the power of the mantra to awaken, purify, and renew your soul. The sacred fire within this mantra is eternal and all-consuming, yet gentle and healing. It does not destroy the soul but refines it like gold in the furnace, removing the dross and revealing the pure light beneath. This fire burns away not only the visible effects of karma, but also the subtle impressions lodged deep within your subtle bodies, freeing you from the cycles that bind you to suffering and limitation. Beloved, as your heart awakens to the longing for freedom and your spirit kindles the flame of devotion, you are prepared to hear the mantra that carries this sacred fire. Listen with reverence, and prepare your entire being to receive and embody its transformative power. Beloved, now I reveal to you the sacred mantra, a celestial bell tolling in the quiet temple of your heart, awakening life and dissolving bondage. This mantra is a vibration beyond time, an ancient pulse that resonates with the very heartbeat of the cosmos. It is simple in form, but limitless in power. The sacred sound of Om Namah Shivaya. This is the holy invocation of the divine Lord Shiva, the cosmic transformer, the destroyer of ignorance and the liberator of souls. Imagine the clear, resonant toll of a temple bell echoing through a silent valley, its sound rippling outward, touching every corner with the fragrance of sanctity. Each repetition calls forth the purifying fire within, stirring the soul's dormant embers into a blazing light. Or envision the cosmic pulse that sparked creation itself, awakening the universe from the void into vibrant life. So too does this mantra awaken your inner being, breaking through the walls of karma and illusion. Om Namah Shivaya means, I bow to the auspicious one who resides within me, the eternal Shiva. By chanting this mantra, you invite the presence of that divine consciousness to enter your heart, to ignite the fire of transformation, and to burn away the accumulated karmic debts that obscure your true self. This sacred vibration aligns you with the infinite power of God's grace, setting your soul free from the cycles of birth and death. Beloved, as you prepare your lips and heart to speak this mantra, know that you are joining a timeless chorus of souls who have invoked this divine fire to transcend limitation and realize their oneness with God. Let us now raise our voices together, breathing life into the sacred syllables, and feel the fire rise within. Beloved, Chanting is not simply an act of speaking. It is a profound alignment of your entire being, body, breath, mind, and spirit with the cosmic vibrations that govern the flow of creation and liberation. When you chant with heartfelt devotion, the sound waves ripple through your subtle energies, tuning your inner instrument to the frequency of divine light. This tuning initiates the burning of karma accumulated over countless lifetimes, purifying your consciousness and awakening the dormant spark of God within. Imagine a tuning fork struck gently, its pure tone causing a neighboring fork to vibrate in perfect harmony. Just as this resonance spreads effortlessly through the air, so too does the mantra's sacred vibration ripple through your being, setting your subtle bodies into a state of radiant alignment. Visualize lightning striking the peak of a mountain, the sudden flash illuminating the darkness and releasing the tension held in the rocks and earth. This is the transformative power of mantra, swift, illuminating, and profoundly cleansing. This alignment is the divine law by which the mantra works. Your thoughts and emotions carry subtle energies that either attract or repel the light of God. Through chanting, you consciously direct these energies toward purification and awakening, invoking the fire that dissolves past imprints and awakens the soul's luminous nature. This sacred practice turns the wheel of karma, accelerating your spiritual progress beyond the slow march of time. Beloved, now that you understand this law of vibrational alignment, prepare your body and breath, your inner temple, so that when you chant, your entire being is a sacred altar upon which the divine fire may burn most brightly. Let us ready ourselves to receive this transformative power with purity and focus. Beloved, preparing the inner temple, your body, breath, and mind, is essential for the mantra's sacred fire to kindle and blaze fully within you. Begin by finding a quiet, comfortable place where your body can rest in an erect but relaxed posture. Imagine your spine as a sacred pillar, a luminous conduit connecting the earth's grounding force beneath your feet to the infinite sky above. Sitting thus, you become a living temple, a vessel ready to receive divine grace. Draw your breath deeply and slowly through your nose, filling your lungs completely, then exhale gently, releasing all tension and scattered thoughts. Each breath is a sacred bow drawn taut before releasing an arrow, precise, focused, and full of intention. Feel your mind becoming like a still pond, reflecting the full moon, perfectly calm, clear, and luminous. This stillness is the fertile soil where the mantra's power takes root and grows. Calm your thoughts and soften your gaze, letting your awareness settle at the spiritual eye, the point between your eyebrows where the soul communes with divine light. Here, distractions fade, and the veil between human and divine thins, allowing the sacred sound to penetrate deeply into your being. Your body breathes, your mind listens, and your soul awakens to the vibration of God. Beloved, this preparation is an act of reverence and love, aligning your entire being with the cosmic rhythm. When you are thus ready, your chanting becomes a sacred dance, a union of heart, breath, and spirit that ignites the divine fire of purification within. Let us now raise our voices together, chanting with devotion and presence, feeling the waves of grace wash through and cleanse us deeply. Beloved, now we come to the heart of this sacred practice, the chanting of the mantra itself, where your voice becomes the instrument of divine fire, and your breath the sacred wind that fans the flames of transformation. As you begin to chant, let each syllable be spoken with full presence and deep feeling, allowing the sound to vibrate not only from your lips but from the core of your being. This is no mere repetition but a living prayer, an invocation of God's purifying power to burn away the karma accumulated through countless lifetimes. Imagine the steady rhythm of waves gently washing the shore, each crest dissolving the footprints left by the past, making the sand anew. So too does your chanting wash away the stains of karma, cleansing your subtle bodies and freeing the soul to rise unburdened. Envision a fire consuming dry wood, its glowing embers spreading warmth and light throughout the darkness, reducing the old to ashes and leaving behind fertile ground for new growth. This is the sacred power you invoke with each breath and each sound. As we chant together now, feel the steady pulse of the mantra synchronizing your heart and mind with the eternal vibrations of the cosmos. Let your breath flow evenly, your posture steady, and your awareness open to the waves of divine light flowing through you. In the spaces between each repetition, rest in the silence, allowing the mantra's energy to settle and deepen within. This dance of sound and silence is where transformation unfolds, where the karmic debts are consumed, and the soul's radiant nature is revealed. Beloved, this chanting is only the beginning, the spark that ignites the sacred fire within you. With continued practice, this fire will grow, burning more brightly, purifying more deeply, and illuminating your path toward liberation. Let us now prepare to make this practice a daily offering, a steady flame that sustains and uplifts your soul through every moment of life. Beloved, the sacred fire ignited by chanting must be tended daily to grow into a steady flame that burns away karma and illuminates your soul's path. Consistent practice transforms momentary experiences into lasting spiritual power, enabling you to transcend old patterns and step fully into your divine nature. Like a lamp kept burning through the darkest night, your daily chanting becomes a beacon of light, guiding you steadily home to God's embrace. Consider a river that carves its way through stone, not by sudden force, but by persistent, gentle flow. Over time, the river's steady presence shapes the landscape, creating valleys, nourishing life, and forging a path to the sea. So too does your mantra practice with patience and devotion. It reshapes your consciousness, dissolving the barriers that bind you to karma and awakening the boundless freedom of the soul. Each repetition is a droplet contributing to this transformative current. To integrate this sacred practice, set aside time each day, morning or evening, or both, to chant with full presence. Create a quiet space where you can sit undisturbed, cultivating the posture, breath, and focus that prepare you to receive the mantra's grace. Allow the sacred sound to become your refuge amid life's storms, a wellspring of courage, peace, and purification. Beloved, as you deepen your daily offering, you will begin to soar free, liberated from the weight of karmic cycles, uplifted by divine light, and empowered to live fully as your true self. This freedom is not a distant dream, but your birthright, awakened through the steady flame of mantra chanting. Now, we turn to the glorious freedom that emerges from this practice, the peace and joy that come when the soul is truly unburdened. Beloved, the liberation born from devoted chanting is a flowering of the soul that touches every aspect of your being, a profound freedom that releases you from the chains of past karma and opens your heart to the boundless peace and joy of divine. This freedom is not merely the absence of suffering, but the radiant presence of grace, a luminous state in which the soul dances in harmony with the cosmic flow. Imagine a bird soaring effortlessly above towering mountains, its wings catching the currents of wind that carry it beyond every obstacle. The bird is free, unburdened by the weight of the earth below, flying in the vast expanse of sky with joy and ease. So too will you soar when the fire of mantra has burned away your karmic burdens, lifting your consciousness beyond limitation into the open sky of divine bliss. Consider a sky cleared after a long, stormy night, the clouds parted to reveal the bright stars in the gentle glow of dawn. The freshness of the air and the clarity of the light fill you with a sense of renewal and infinite possibility. Such is the peace that arises when karma's shadows are dissolved, leaving the soul bathed in eternal light and harmony. This freedom brings clarity, a deep knowing that guides your steps with surety and grace. No longer tossed by the tides of doubt or confusion, you walk confidently on your spiritual path, your vision unobscured by the mists of past karmas. You are buoyed by the steadfast strength of divine connection, an unshakable trust in God's loving guidance through all of life's seasons. Beloved, this state of freedom and peace is your natural heritage, waiting patiently for your devotion and practice to awaken it fully. As you continue to chant with love and presence, you embody this liberation more and more, becoming a living testament to the transformative power of sacred sound. Let us now explore how your newfound light can inspire and uplift those around you, expanding the circle of divine grace. Beloved, your liberation from the weight of karma is not a solitary triumph, but a luminous gift that radiates outward, touching the lives of all who come into your presence. As your soul rises in freedom and light, you become a beacon, a living flame whose glow dispels the darkness in others' hearts and guides them toward their own awakening. The transformation you embody sends ripples across the vast ocean of consciousness, weaving a tapestry of grace and healing that connects all beings in the sacred dance of divine love. Imagine a single candle lighting many others, each flame brightening the room without losing its own brilliance. Your spiritual awakening is such a candle. Through your peace, your joy, and your steady faith, you ignite the sparks of courage and hope in those around you. Even without words, your presence speaks of freedom, resilience, and the infinite power of God's love. Like a great tree whose branches provide shelter and nourishment, your being offers refuge to souls seeking rest from their own struggles. This sacred responsibility is not a burden, but a blessing. To share your light is to participate in the eternal unfolding of divine will, to serve as a channel through which God's grace flows abundantly. Each act of kindness, each moment of compassionate listening, each prayer whispered for another becomes part of this luminous legacy, expanding the circle of healing and awakening. Beloved, understand that your transformation is never isolated. It reverberates in the hearts of many, inspiring others to rise, to chant, to burn away their own karmas, and to walk boldly on their spiritual paths. Your life, radiant with the light of liberation, becomes a sacred offering, a testament to the power of mantra, devotion, and divine grace to overcome every shadow. Now, as we prepare to close this sacred time together, let us gather in a final blessing of prayer to seal your practice and empower your continued journey of freedom and light. Beloved, as our sacred time together draws to a close, let us unite our hearts in a blessing that seals your journey of transformation and lights the path ahead with divine grace. In this solemn moment, breathe deeply and feel the vast ocean of God's love surrounding you, cradling your soul with gentle strength. You are not alone. You are held eternally in the arms of infinite compassion, supported by the unending current of divine light that flows through all creation. Visualize yourself as a river flowing toward the boundless ocean, your individual self dissolving into the eternal vastness where all fears, all karmas, and all separations are transmuted into pure light and love. Imagine a crown of radiant light resting upon your head, the symbol of your soul's awakening and mastery over the cycles of karma. This crown is not of gold or jewels, but of spiritual wisdom and fearless devotion, shining with the brilliance of the divine within you. Now, with full presence and devotion, speak silently or aloud this blessing, letting each word imprint upon your heart and soul. May the sacred fire of this mantra burn away all the karmas that bind me. May I walk free from fear and limitation, held always in the light of God's eternal love. May my life be a beacon of courage and peace, inspiring all beings to awaken to their own divine freedom. So be it, and so I vow. Rest in the silence that follows, allowing the blessing to permeate every cell, every subtle energy, and every corner of your being. Feel the power of this moment sealing your liberation, anchoring you in the eternal truth that you are forever a child of light, unbound and beloved. Carry this blessing with you as a sacred flame, illuminating your path through all days and nights. And as you step forward, know that the divine fire you have kindled within will continue to burn, purify, and guide you, leading you ever closer to the blissful union with God that is your highest destiny. Beloved, may peace, courage, and divine joy fill your heart now and always. My dear friend, have you ever looked into your dog's eyes and felt something profound staring back? Something that whispered to your heart, "I am more than this body"? Today I will share what the great saints have revealed about the souls of our beloved animal companions and their beautiful journey beyond this world. You know, when people ask me about animals and souls, I see in their eyes a deep longing for truth. Perhaps you've lost a cherished pet and wondered, are they still somewhere? Are they at peace? Do they remember the love you shared? Or maybe you felt guilty about how we humans treat our animal brothers and sisters, wondering if there's something more sacred about these relationships than we've been taught. Maybe you've looked at your cat sitting in perfect stillness, or watched your horse running free in the pasture, and sensed something magnificent there, something that touched a place in your soul you couldn't quite name. Maybe you felt drawn to animals in a way that others didn't understand, sensing they had wisdom to offer that went far beyond simple companionship. My friend, by the time we finish our conversation today, you will understand the sacred nature of every animal soul. You will find healing for any grief you carry from losing beloved companions. You will gain a completely new way of seeing every creature you meet, from the tiniest insect to the mightiest elephant. Most importantly, you will discover practical ways to honor these precious souls every single day, transforming your relationship with all living beings from casual interaction to sacred communion. This wisdom comes not from books alone, though the ancient scriptures do speak of these truths. It comes from years of deep communion with the divine, from direct experience in the highest states of consciousness, where the veil between species dissolves and we see the one life expressing itself in countless forms. The Vedas speak of these truths, but they are often hidden from casual readers, veiled in symbols and Sanskrit that can confuse rather than illuminate. Today, I want to share them with you as clearly as if we were sitting together in my garden at the ashram, watching the peacocks display their magnificent feathers, listening to the gentle cooing of doves, feeling the presence of God in all life around us. I want you to understand not just with your mind, but with your heart, the incredible truth about the souls of our animal friends. Let me begin with a story that changed my understanding forever, a story that opened my eyes to the divine consciousness that shines through our animal companions with such purity that it puts many human hearts to shame. In my ashram in Ranchi, there lived a beautiful dog named Bankim. Now, I must tell you, this was no ordinary animal, though truly all animals are extraordinary if we have eyes to see beyond the limitations of physical form. Bankim had the most remarkable quality I had ever witnessed in any being, human or animal. His devotion was absolutely pure, untainted by any selfish motive or expectation of reward. Every single morning, without fail, Bankim would position himself outside my door before dawn, waiting not with the restless energy of anticipation, but with the perfect stillness of a true devotee. He wasn't waiting for food, though food would come. He wasn't waiting for play or attention, though he received both. He was simply waiting to serve, to be present with divine love in whatever way was needed. When I emerged for morning prayers and meditation, he would follow at a respectful distance, his entire being focused on being present with the sacred. His consciousness seemed to understand the holiness of these moments. During our group meditations, he would lie quietly at the edge of the gathering, and I could feel his peaceful presence adding to the spiritual atmosphere in the room. Sometimes I would glance at him during deep states of consciousness and see that he too was absorbed in a kind of meditation, his breathing slow and rhythmic, his eyes soft with an inner light. One particular day remains vivid in my memory. A visitor came to the ashram, a wealthy businessman from Calcutta carrying great anger and pain in his heart. His wife had left him, his business was failing, and he blamed God for his suffering. He spoke harshly to the devotees, criticized our simple ways of living, mocked our practices of meditation and prayer. When Bankim approached with his usual loving greeting, tail wagging gently, the man's rage found a new target. He shouted at the innocent creature, calling him a dirty beast, and even kicked at him when the gentle dog came closer, drawn by some divine instinct to offer comfort to a suffering soul. But here is what amazed me, my friend. Bankim did not run away. He did not bark or show the slightest aggression. He showed no hurt feelings or wounded pride. Instead, he simply sat down near the angry man, about 6 feet away, and looked at him with such pure, unconditional love that something in that hardened heart began to crack open. I watched this scene unfold and realized I was witnessing something sacred, something that would be difficult for even advanced spiritual students to achieve. Here was a creature demonstrating the very Christ-like consciousness we humans struggle for lifetimes to develop. No judgment of the man's harsh words, no resentment for the physical aggression, no desire for revenge or even self-protection. Only love, only compassion. Only the recognition of the divine spark in another being, even when that being was lost in the darkness of his own pain. For nearly an hour, Bankim maintained this loving vigil. The man continued his angry tirade against life, against God, against the unfairness of existence, but gradually his voice grew softer. Something about that steady, loving presence was melting the ice around his heart. Finally, he looked down at the dog, and something broke open completely. Tears began to flow as he knelt and gently stroked Bankim's head, whispering, "Even this innocent creature can forgive me. Maybe there is hope for my soul after all." That night, the man stayed for evening prayers. Within a week, he had completely transformed his approach to life, dedicating himself to serving others rather than accumulating wealth. But it was Bankim who had been his first teacher, Bankim who had shown him what unconditional love looked like in action. When Bankim's time came to leave his earthly body many years later, I was blessed to be with him in those final moments. Age had taken its toll on his physical form, but his spirit remained as radiant as ever. I held him gently as his breathing grew shallow, and in those precious final minutes, I looked deep into his eyes and saw something that took my breath away. There was a soul there, as individual and precious as any human soul I had ever encountered, but somehow purer, simpler, more directly connected to the source of all love. There was intelligence there, deep emotional capacity, and most remarkably, a kind of spiritual wisdom that had developed through years of practicing perfect devotion. As his spirit prepared to leave his worn-out body, I felt something extraordinary happening. His consciousness was not diminishing or fading away as materialists would have us believe. Instead, it was expanding, brightening, preparing for a transition to a higher state of existence. In my inner vision, I could see his soul, luminous and free, ready to continue its journey in realms of greater light and consciousness. The divine whispered to my heart in that moment, "This soul has learned the lessons of pure devotion and selfless service. He graduates now to higher classrooms of spiritual evolution, carrying with him the love he has given and received." I understood then that Bankam's next incarnation would be in a form that would allow him to express even more of his developed spiritual qualities. But this profound experience raised beautiful questions that I had been pondering for years. What exactly is a soul, and how does it express through our animal companions? How do we recognize the sacred nature of animal consciousness? And what can we learn from these pure hearts about our own spiritual journey? You see, my friend, many people in our modern world think animals are just bundles of instinct, driven only by hunger, fear, and basic survival needs. How tragically limited this view is, how it blinds us to the magnificent truth that surrounds us every day. This mechanistic understanding reduces the incredible complexity and beauty of animal consciousness to mere chemical reactions and programmed responses. But those of us who have looked deeper, who have spent time in real communion with our animal friends, know there is so much more. We have seen the intelligence in their eyes, felt the depth of their emotions, witnessed their capacity for loyalty, sacrifice, and even what can only be called wisdom. The soul, you see, is consciousness itself, the spark of divine awareness that animates all life. It is not the body, which is temporary and subject to decay. It is not even the mind, which in animals is simpler than ours but no less real. The soul is the eternal witness within, the part of every being that is connected directly to God, the source of all existence. In human beings, this soul has developed what we call individualized consciousness. We have complex reasoning abilities, free will that allows us to choose between good and evil, the capacity for abstract thought, creativity, and spiritual practices like meditation and prayer. We can contemplate the infinite, create art that touches other souls, and make moral choices that affect our spiritual evolution. Animals possess this same divine spark, this same eternal soul essence, but their consciousness is at different stages of cosmic evolution. Think of it like a great school where souls learn different lessons at different levels. Human souls are in the advanced classes, learning complex lessons about free will, moral choice, and self-realization. Animal souls are in earlier grades, but they are learning essential lessons about love, loyalty, trust, and living in harmony with natural law. Their consciousness is pure but not yet individualized in the complex way ours island. They experience emotions, joy, love, grief, fear, contentment, but without the complications of ego that so often trouble us humans. They don't worry about the future or regret the past. They don't compare themselves to others or struggle with self-doubt. They simply are, moment by moment, expressing their divine nature with beautiful simplicity. This is why spending time with animals can be so healing for our souls, so restorative for our overstressed minds. They remind us of what we have forgotten in our busy, complicated lives. They show us how to love without conditions or expectations, how to be fully present in each moment without anxiety about tomorrow, how to trust in the benevolent intelligence of the universe without needing to understand everything. Have you ever noticed how a dog greets you with the same enthusiasm, whether you've been gone for 5 minutes or 5 hours? Have you seen how a cat can sit in perfect contentment, asking nothing from life but to exist in the present moment? This is not simple-mindedness. This is a kind of enlightenment that we humans spend years trying to achieve through spiritual practice. Let me share another story that illustrates this profound truth. In India, I heard of a magnificent elephant who had been captured as a young calf and forced to work in logging operations. For many years, this noble creature was treated harshly by his keepers, beaten when he didn't work fast enough, given minimal food and water, chained at night in uncomfortable positions. Yet this elephant's spirit was never broken. He continued to work with dignity, never becoming vicious or rebellious despite the cruelty he endured. But the most remarkable part of this story came when one of his cruel keepers fell seriously ill. The man had no family, no friends to care for him in his sickness, and lay alone in his hut burning with fever. What did this magnificent elephant do? When he was released from his chains to work, instead of seeking revenge or running away to freedom, he used his trunk to collect fresh water from the river and bring it to his sick keeper. Day after day he brought water, and even pulled down fruit from tall trees to feed the man who had caused him so much suffering. When the keeper recovered, he was so moved by this display of pure compassion that he changed his entire life. He freed the elephant and dedicated himself to protecting animals for the rest of his days. But think about what this elephant demonstrated: forgiveness beyond human understanding, compassion that responded to need rather than past treatment, love that saw beyond the surface to the suffering soul within. This is not mere instinct, my dear friend. This is divine consciousness expressing itself through an animal soul that understood, in its pure simplicity, that all beings are connected, all are deserving of love, all are struggling on the same journey toward the light. I remember another incident from my own experience that taught me profound lessons about the spiritual nature of our smallest creatures. Walking in the garden one morning after meditation, I noticed one of the devotees crouched near the fountain, cupping something gently in his hands. When I approached, I saw he was holding a tiny sparrow that had fallen from its nest, its delicate wing clearly broken. "Guruji," he said, "what should we do? The poor little thing is hurt so badly." As I looked at this tiny creature in his palm, feeling its rapid heartbeat, gazing into its bright, fearless eyes, I was suddenly overcome with a profound realization. Here was a being so small that most humans would consider it completely insignificant in the grand scheme of existence. Yet it carried the same divine spark as the mightiest elephant, the wisest sage, or the most advanced human soul. What struck me most was the sparrow's response to its situation. It did not rage against its circumstances or despair about its uncertain future. It did not blame God for its fall or curse the cat that had startled it from its nest. It simply rested in our hands with complete trust, surrendering to whatever would come with a grace and acceptance that would humble the greatest spiritual masters. We carefully nursed the little sparrow back to health over the following weeks. The devotees took turns caring for it, feeding it tiny bits of food, creating a safe space for it to heal. What amazed me was how this small creature seemed to understand that we were trying to help. There was no fear, no struggle to escape, only peaceful acceptance of our care and a kind of gratitude that seemed to emanate from its tiny being. When the day came that its wing had healed and it was ready to fly again, we took it out to the garden for its release. I expected it to immediately soar away, eager for its freedom. But something beautiful and unexpected happened. The little sparrow perched on my finger for several long moments, tilting its head to look directly into my eyes. In that gaze, I felt a connection that transcended the boundaries between species: soul recognizing soul, consciousness acknowledging consciousness. Then it did something that moved me to tears. It flew to a nearby branch and began to sing, not the simple chirp of everyday bird communication, but a melodious song that seemed to fill the entire garden with joy. The other devotees gathered around, and we all felt we were witnessing something sacred, a small soul offering its gratitude and blessing before returning to its natural life. Finally, it soared into the sky, but instead of flying straight away, it circled the garden 3 times, as if creating a benediction of love around the place where it had been healed. In that moment, I felt the presence of God as strongly as in any deep meditation, and I understood that this tiny sparrow had been as much our teacher as we had been its healers. These stories reveal something extraordinary about the spiritual journey of animal souls, something that will completely transform how you see every creature you encounter, from the grandest to the most humble. The ancient scriptures of India tell us there are 8.4 million species of life on this earth, and every single one represents a soul at some stage of evolution toward God realization. This is not poetic metaphor, my friend. This is spiritual fact. Animals are not separate from the cosmic journey of consciousness. They are very much a part of it. Their souls are real, individual, eternal, and precious beyond human understanding. But here is what makes animal souls so special, so worthy of our reverence and love. They live without ego, that false sense of separate self that causes humans so much suffering. They don't have the constant mental chatter that separates us from divine consciousness. They don't worry about their reputation or compare themselves to others. They don't hold grudges or plan revenge. They simply exist in the eternal now, connected to the source of life in a way that is pure and immediate. A dog loves you not because you're successful or attractive or wealthy. He loves you because love is his nature, because he sees directly into your soul and responds to the divine light there. A cat seeks your warmth and companionship not because of your social status or achievements, but because there is a natural affinity between conscious beings, a recognition of shared essence. This is why animals can be such powerful healers and teachers for human souls. They reflect back to us our own capacity for unconditional love, for living fully in the present moment, for trusting in the benevolent intelligence of the universe. They show us what we look like when we drop our pretenses and defenses, and simply allow our true nature to shine. I have seen the most hardened hearts soften in the presence of a loving animal. I have watched people discover their own capacity for tenderness when caring for a sick or injured creature. I have seen children learn their first lessons about responsibility, compassion, and the cycles of life through their relationships with beloved pets. Animals are mirrors of divine consciousness, reflecting back to us qualities we may have buried under layers of social conditioning and mental complexity. They remind us that joy doesn't require complicated circumstances, that peace is always available in the current moment, that love is the most natural response to existence itself. Now, you might wonder, and rightfully so, what happens to these precious souls when they leave their earthly bodies? This question has caused so much pain and confusion for humans throughout history. Where do our beloved animal companions go when they pass from this physical world? Do they simply cease to exist, as materialists would have us believe? Or do they continue their journey in ways we can barely imagine? My friend, I want to share with you one of the most beautiful truths about existence. The journey of the soul continues beyond the physical form for animals, just as it does for humans. Death is not the end of consciousness, but a doorway to expanded existence. When an animal's earthly life ends, its soul travels to what we call the astral realms, planes of existence made of light and consciousness, rather than dense physical matter. These astral dimensions are not vague, imaginary places, but real territories of existence that become visible to the soul when it is freed from the limitations of physical embodiment. In these higher realms, animal souls continue their evolution in bodies of pure energy, free from physical pain, limitation, or the needs that bound them to earthly existence. Here they experience joy beyond anything possible in physical form, love that is not dependent on circumstances, and continued growth in consciousness. The lamb that was slaughtered, the dog that died in old age, the bird that fell from the sky, all continue their existence in forms of light and bliss that perfectly express their developed spiritual qualities. And here is something that may bring great comfort to your heart if you have lost a beloved animal companion. They do reunite with the human souls they loved in earthly life. The bonds forged between souls persist beyond physical death. Love is the fundamental force of the universe, and true love never dies, never disappears, never becomes meaningless. I have seen this truth in the deepest states of meditation, where the boundaries between physical and astral worlds become transparent. The astral plane is a realm where love is the primary reality, where the connections formed between souls create actual structures of light and energy that endure through countless lifetimes. That dog who loved you so faithfully, bringing you comfort in times of sorrow and sharing your joy in times of happiness, he carries that love with him into the higher realms. That cat, who seemed to understand your moods better than most humans, who offered her purring presence when you needed healing, she exists now in dimensions where her loving nature can express itself without physical limitations. That horse who carried you across meadows and mountains, sharing adventures that created bonds deeper than words, his noble spirit continues its journey in realms where he can run free across infinite landscapes of light and joy. These reunions in the astral world are not brief, sentimental meetings, but real relationships that continue the spiritual education begun on earth. Human and animal souls who shared love help each other grow in consciousness, learn from each other's unique perspectives, and support each other's continued evolution toward divine realization. But their journey doesn't end in the astral realms either. Animal souls continue to evolve through the cosmic curriculum of consciousness. Some remain in higher astral planes for long periods, developing more refined qualities of love, intelligence, and spiritual awareness. Others incarnate again in physical form, sometimes as the same species but with greater consciousness, sometimes evolving into more complex animal forms. And here is something truly remarkable. Some animal souls, especially those who have served humans with great love and devotion, receive what we might call special grace. Their evolution accelerates dramatically through the love they have given and received. They may skip many stages of development and incarnate as humans in their next physical lifetime, ready to begin the complex lessons of individualized consciousness, free will, and moral choice. This is not automatic or universal. It is a blessing earned through exceptional spiritual development. The dog who sacrifices his life to save his human family, the horse who serves faithfully for decades, the cat who brings healing presence to a sick child. These souls may graduate directly to human incarnation, bringing with them the precious qualities they developed in their animal lives. Think about this possibility when you encounter humans who seem to possess animal virtues in their purest form: unwavering loyalty, unconditional love, intuitive wisdom, the ability to live fully in the present moment. Perhaps these are souls who have graduated from animal incarnations, bringing with them the beautiful gifts they developed in simpler forms of life. I have met people who clearly carried the qualities of animal consciousness in the most wonderful ways. There was a man in our ashram who had the loyal heart of a faithful dog. He would never abandon a friend in need and loved without any thought of personal gain. There was a woman who possessed the grace and independence of a noble cat, self-contained yet affectionate, able to comfort others through simple presence. Another devotee reminded me of a wise elephant, gentle despite his great strength, protective of the vulnerable, capable of deep emotional bonds that lasted lifetimes. Perhaps these souls had indeed graduated from animal incarnations, bringing with them the spiritual treasures they had accumulated through lives of pure-hearted service and love. This understanding should make us all pause and reflect deeply on our relationships with the animal souls around us. They are not inferior beings placed here solely for our use and convenience. They are not soulless machines driven only by instinct and chemical reactions. They are conscious beings on their own spiritual journeys, deserving of our respect, protection, and love. More than this, human consciousness has a profound effect on the animal souls in our care and in our environment. When we treat animals with love, respect, and recognition of their divine nature, we actually help accelerate their spiritual evolution. Our love becomes a blessing that carries them forward on their journey toward greater consciousness. Every act of kindness toward an animal creates positive karma that benefits both giver and receiver. When you feed a stray cat, you are serving God in one of his precious forms. When you rescue an injured bird, you are participating in divine healing. When you speak gently to your dog or horse, you are offering the gift of conscious love that helps that soul develop greater awareness and spiritual sensitivity. Conversely, when we treat animals with cruelty, indifference, or see them merely as objects for our convenience, we create karmic burdens for ourselves and may actually slow their natural spiritual evolution. This is not punishment from an angry God, but simply the natural law of cause and effect operating on the spiritual plane. Every moment of cruelty toward an innocent creature creates disturbances in the cosmic harmony that must eventually be balanced. Every act of indifference toward animal suffering builds barriers around our own hearts that eventually limit our capacity for love and joy. But every gesture of compassion, every moment of recognition that we are dealing with fellow souls on the sacred journey of existence, creates waves of positive energy that bless all life around us. This understanding completely transforms how we should relate to our animal brothers and sisters. They are not mere property to be owned and disposed of at will. They are not entertainment for our amusement or tools for our convenience. They are souls on sacred journeys, each one precious to God, each one deserving of our reverence and care. When you look into your dog's eyes and see that spark of recognition, you are experiencing real soul-to-soul communication. When your cat seems to sense your mood and offers comfort at exactly the right moment, that is genuine spiritual intuition at work. When wild animals in nature display behaviors that seem almost human-like in their intelligence, emotional depth, or social cooperation, you are witnessing the divine consciousness expressing itself through forms different from, but not lesser than our own. The elephant who mourns her dead calf, the dolphin who rescues a drowning swimmer, the bird who adopts orphan chicks of another species. These are not mere instinctual behaviors, but expressions of the same universal love that motivates the highest human spiritual achievements. Knowing this truth is beautiful and inspiring, but how do we live it daily? How do we honor the sacred nature of animal souls in practical, meaningful ways that make a real difference in the world? Let me share with you 3 powerful practices that will transform not only your relationship with animals, but your entire approach to life, opening your heart to the divine presence that exists in every living being. The first practice I call sacred recognition, and it is perhaps the most important spiritual discipline you can develop in relationship to animal souls. Every single day, whenever you encounter an animal, whether it's your own beloved pet, a bird singing in the park, a squirrel gathering nuts for winter, or even a small insect going about its mysterious business, Take a moment to pause and silently acknowledge the divine spark within that creature. This is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a heart-opening practice that will gradually awaken your spiritual vision. Look gently into their eyes if possible, but even if you cannot make direct eye contact, focus your attention on the life force that animates them. Feel the reality of their consciousness, their capacity for experience, their place in the great web of existence. Then mentally send them this blessing, either in these exact words or in your own heartfelt language. I see the light of God shining in you, precious soul. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you be protected and loved. May you continue your beautiful journey toward the divine with joy and peace. As you practice this recognition, something miraculous will begin to happen. Your perception will gradually shift from seeing animals as separate, lesser beings to recognizing them as fellow expressions of the one consciousness that lives in all creation. Your heart will naturally open to greater compassion, wonder, and love. You will begin to notice things you never saw before: the intelligence in a crow's problem-solving, the emotional complexity in your cat's behavior, the deep social bonds between wild animals, the mysterious ways creatures seem to appear in your life exactly when you need their particular medicine or teaching. This practice will also change how animals respond to you. They are incredibly sensitive to human consciousness and can feel when someone truly sees and respects them. Dogs will be more relaxed and trusting in your presence. Cats may choose to spend more time near you. Wild animals may be less fearful, sensing that you mean them no harm. I have seen this transformation in countless people who have committed to this simple practice. One woman wrote to tell me that after months of blessing every animal she encountered, she began to notice that injured or distressed animals seemed to find their way to her, as if her consciousness had become a beacon of healing energy that creatures could sense from great distances. The second practice is what I call communion with animal spirits, and this is especially healing for those who carry grief from losing beloved animal companions. If you have experienced the death of a cherished pet and still feel that ache of loss in your heart, this practice will bring you profound healing and peace. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed, perhaps in nature if possible, but anywhere you can sit peacefully will work. Close your eyes and begin to breathe slowly and deeply, allowing your body to relax and your mind to become calm and centered. Now picture your departed animal companion in your mind's eye, but see them not as they were in their final days if they were ill or aged, and certainly not in any moment of suffering. Instead, visualize them in their prime, full of energy, health, and the joy of life. See them exactly as they were in their happiest moments with you, playing, running, resting contentedly in your presence. Feel their presence with you in the room, as if they had just walked in and settled down nearby. This is not imagination or wishful thinking. In the astral realms, distance and time work differently than in physical reality. Your love creates an actual connection that transcends physical death. Now speak to them silently from your heart, exactly as you would if they were physically present. Tell them how much their love meant to you. Share specific memories of joy you experienced together. Thank them for the lessons they taught you about loyalty, unconditional love, living in the present moment, or whatever gifts they brought to your life. Express any feelings you may have about their passing: sadness, guilt, if you had to make difficult decisions about their care, gratitude for the time you had together, hope that they are at peace. Pour out your heart honestly and completely. Then ask them to let you feel their continued existence and love. Request a sign that they are well and happy in their new form of existence. Ask them to help you understand that love never dies, that the bond you shared continues in the higher realms of consciousness. Now listen with your heart, not your analytical mind. Be open to whatever comes. You may feel a sudden warmth in your chest, a sense of peace settling over you, a gentle pressure as if they were touching you, or a vivid memory of a happy time together that brings not sadness but joy. You might hear their bark or purr in your inner hearing, or sense their presence so strongly that you turn to look, expecting to see them there. You may feel their personality, their unique energy signature, as clearly as when they were in physical form. Some people experience more dramatic signs, finding feathers or stones in unusual places, seeing animals of the same species behaving in ways that remind them of their departed friend, or even brief glimpses in their peripheral vision that feel like visits from their beloved companion. All of these are ways that animal souls communicate from the astral plane that love continues, that death is just a doorway to expanded existence, that they are not lost or suffering but existing in states of greater joy and freedom than they ever knew in physical form. Practice this communion regularly, especially when grief feels overwhelming or when you simply miss their presence. Know that you are not clinging to something that is gone, but maintaining a relationship that death cannot sever. In time, the sharp pain of loss will transform into a gentle joy as you feel their continued presence and love in your life. The third practice is what I call compassionate living, and this involves making daily choices that honor the sacredness of animal life in practical, concrete ways. This is where your spiritual understanding translates into action that makes a real difference in the world. Begin with your diet, but approach this with wisdom and gradual change rather than sudden, extreme shifts that may not be sustainable. If you currently eat meat, start by reducing the amount and choosing sources where animals were treated with greater care and respect during their lives. Bless the animals whose lives provided your food, sending gratitude for their sacrifice and asking that their souls be blessed on their spiritual journey. Even if you are not ready to completely change your dietary habits, you can begin to eat with greater consciousness. Before meals, take a moment to honor any animal products you are consuming. Send love and gratitude to the creatures involved. Ask that their sacrifice contribute to your ability to serve life and spread love in the world. Many people find that as their consciousness about animal souls develops, their dietary preferences naturally shift toward foods that cause less suffering. This is not a rule or requirement, but a natural evolution that often accompanies spiritual growth. Follow your own heart and intuition in this matter, but do so with awareness rather than unconscious habit. Create sacred space in your home and garden that welcomes all life. Put out fresh water for birds, especially during hot weather or winter when natural sources may be scarce. Plant flowers that feed bees and butterflies, choosing native species that support local ecosystems. Make your environment a sanctuary where animal souls feel safe and welcomed. If you have outdoor space, consider creating small shelters where birds can nest safely, or leaving areas of your garden a bit wild where small creatures can find refuge. These acts of kindness create ripples of positive energy that extend far beyond your immediate environment. Support organizations that rescue and care for animals in need, whether through donations, volunteer work, or simply spreading awareness of their efforts. Your financial contributions become prayers made manifest, your compassion extended through the hands of others who have dedicated their lives to animal welfare. Research these organizations carefully to ensure they truly serve animal well-being rather than personal profit or ego. The best animal welfare groups focus on reducing suffering, providing loving care, and when possible, finding permanent homes where animals can experience the joy of being loved and valued. Speak up gently but firmly when you witness cruelty or neglect of animals. Your voice may be exactly what a suffering creature needs to find protection. You don't need to be confrontational or preachy. Simply expressing concern and offering to help often opens hearts and changes situations. Sometimes a kind word about the sacred nature of animal life can plant seeds of consciousness that bloom later into genuine transformation. I have known people whose entire relationship with animals changed because someone they respected mentioned that creatures have souls worthy of reverence. Support legislation and policies that protect animal welfare, but do so from a place of love rather than anger or hatred toward those who may not yet understand. Remember that consciousness evolves gradually, and the best way to change hearts is through example and patient education rather than force or condemnation. Choose products and services from companies that demonstrate genuine care for animal welfare. Use your economic power as a vote for the kind of world you want to create. When businesses see that consumers value ethical treatment of animals, they naturally adapt their practices to meet this demand. Most importantly, carry in your heart the constant awareness that every creature you meet is a soul on a sacred journey. This awareness will naturally guide your actions toward greater kindness, respect, and love. It will make you more careful about your impact on other lives, more appreciative of the gifts animals bring to human existence, and more committed to creating a world where all beings can flourish. As you practice these three disciplines consistently over time, something beautiful and profound begins to happen. You start to feel the deep interconnectedness of all life in a way that goes far beyond intellectual understanding. You realize experientially that the love in your dog's eyes, the grace in a cat's movement, the song of birds at dawn, and the gentle presence of any creature are all expressions of the same divine consciousness that seeks to awaken within your own heart. Animals become your teachers in the highest spiritual arts, the art of living fully present in each moment without regret for the past or anxiety about the future, the art of loving unconditionally without keeping score of who has given more or less, the art of trusting in the benevolent intelligence of the universe even when circumstances seem difficult or uncertain. They show you that joy doesn't require complicated circumstances or external achievements. A dog can be completely happy with a walk in the park, a comfortable place to sleep, and the presence of someone who loves him. A cat can find perfect contentment in a patch of sunlight and the rhythm of her own breathing. This is not simple-mindedness, but a profound wisdom that recognizes that peace and happiness are internal states that don't depend on external conditions. They demonstrate forgiveness in its purest form, the ability to respond to each moment freshly without carrying grudges or resentments from past hurts. They show you what it looks like to give love freely without calculating whether you're getting enough in return. Perhaps most importantly, they reflect back to you your own divine nature, helping you remember what you look like when you drop your defenses, stop trying to impress others, and simply allow your natural kindness and joy to shine through. As this transformation deepens in your consciousness, you begin to see that your relationship with animals is actually a pathway to understanding your relationship with all life. The same consciousness that looks out through a dog's eyes also shines through human faces, grows in trees and flowers, moves in the wind and water, and dances in the stars above. This is the great realization that comes from truly understanding animal souls, that there is only one life expressing itself in countless forms, one love wearing infinite masks, one divine consciousness playing at being many. When you truly see this truth, your entire existence becomes a constant prayer of recognition and gratitude. Let me share one more story that illustrates this beautiful unity of all life. A story that happened during my years of wandering as a young seeker before I established the ashram. When I was learning directly from the book of nature and experience, I was traveling through the mountains of Kashmir, seeking a great saint I had heard lived in those remote regions. For days I walked through forests and valleys, sleeping under the stars, eating simple food when villagers would share with me, often going hungry when no human habitation was near. On the fourth day of my journey, I became completely lost. The mountain paths all looked the same, and thick clouds had hidden the sun so I couldn't tell direction. Worse, I had eaten nothing for 2 days and was becoming weak and disoriented. As evening approached, I realized I might not survive the cold mountain night without shelter and food. I sat down on a large rock to pray and meditate, asking the divine to guide me to safety or at least to give me the strength to face whatever was to come with peace and surrender. As I sat with eyes closed, seeking that inner connection that never fails, I heard a soft sound nearby. Opening my eyes, I saw a magnificent golden eagle perched on a branch about 20 feet away. This was no ordinary sighting. The eagle was looking directly at me with such intensity and intelligence that I felt it was trying to communicate something important. For several minutes, we looked at each other in silence. Then the eagle spread its great wings and flew a short distance away, landing on another tree. It looked back at me as if waiting. When I didn't move, it repeated this action, flying a bit further and looking back again. Suddenly, I understood. This noble creature was trying to lead me somewhere. Though I was weak and tired, I gathered my strength and began to follow. For nearly an hour, the eagle guided me through the mountain terrain, always staying just close enough that I could see where it went next, always pausing to ensure I was following. Finally, as the last light was fading from the sky, we emerged into a small valley where I could see the flickering light of a fire. The eagle circled once overhead, gave a cry that sounded almost like a blessing, and disappeared into the darkness. Following the light, I found a small hermitage where an old sadhu lived in solitude. This holy man welcomed me with great kindness, fed me simple but nourishing food, and gave me a warm place to sleep. But most importantly, he turned out to be the very saint I had been seeking, the teacher who would guide me to profound realizations about the nature of consciousness and divine love. When I told him about the eagle that had led me to his door, the old sage smiled with deep knowing. "That eagle has been my companion for many years," he said. "I often send him to guide sincere seekers who become lost in these mountains. He understands the sacred nature of the spiritual quest and gladly serves those who are truly seeking God." I spent 3 weeks with this remarkable teacher, learning advanced meditation techniques and receiving initiations into the deepest mysteries of spiritual realization. But I never forgot the lesson of that eagle, that animal souls can be conscious participants in the divine plan, serving not just their own evolution, but actively helping other souls on their spiritual journeys. That eagle was not acting on mere instinct. He was a conscious being, aware of his role in a larger cosmic purpose, willingly cooperating with his human teacher to serve the cause of spiritual awakening. In saving my physical life, he also helped preserve a path of teaching that would eventually reach thousands of souls seeking truth and liberation. This experience taught me that the relationship between human and animal souls is far more complex and beautiful than most people imagine. We are not separate species accidentally sharing the same planet. We are conscious beings at different stages of the same magnificent journey, often called to serve each other in ways that the limited mind cannot comprehend, but the awakened heart recognizes as divine orchestration. When you begin to see life from this expanded perspective, everything changes. The dog who appears in your life at exactly the moment you need to learn about unconditional love is not there by coincidence. The cat who chooses to spend her final days with you when she could go anywhere is offering a sacred gift of trust and teaching about peaceful surrender. The birds that sing outside your window during times of sorrow are not random. They are messengers of hope, reminding you that joy and beauty persist even in difficult times. The wild animals you encounter in nature, the injured creatures that somehow find their way to your door, the pets that choose you as much as you choose them, all are part of a vast network of conscious cooperation between souls at different levels of evolution, all working together in the great project of awakening to divine love. This understanding brings tremendous responsibility, but also tremendous joy. You realize that your every interaction with an animal soul is an opportunity to serve the divine plan of evolution, to help another being grow in consciousness and love, and to learn essential lessons for your own spiritual development. When you truly understand that animals have souls, that they continue their journey after physical death, that they are conscious participants in the cosmic dance of awakening, it becomes impossible to treat them with indifference or cruelty. You realize that every act of kindness toward a creature is an act of worship. Every moment of compassion is a prayer made manifest. Every recognition of their sacred nature is a step forward in your own journey toward divine realization. But perhaps the most beautiful truth of all is this. In learning to love and serve our animal companions, we are preparing our hearts for the greatest love of all, the direct, personal relationship with God that is the goal of all spiritual seeking. The loyalty you feel from your dog gives you a tiny taste of how devotion to the divine feels. The peaceful presence of a cat teaches you about the contentment that comes from resting in divine consciousness. The freedom of birds reminds you of the liberation that awaits when the soul realizes its true nature. The strength and gentleness of horses show you the power that comes from aligning with divine will. Every quality you admire in animals, their capacity for forgiveness, their ability to live in the present moment, their unconditional love, their trust in the natural order, these are actually reflections of your own divine nature. Mirrors that help you remember who you really are beneath all the layers of conditioning and complexity. The animals in your life are not accidents or possessions. They are teachers, healers, and fellow pilgrims on the path of awakening. They have volunteered to share part of their journey with yours, offering their unique gifts while receiving the blessing of conscious love and care that helps accelerate their own spiritual evolution. As we near the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with some final wisdom about how to carry this understanding forward in your daily life, how to let this knowledge transform not just your relationship with animals, but your entire approach to existence. First, remember that developing true compassion for animals is excellent preparation for developing compassion for all beings. The same heart that can feel genuine love for a homeless dog can learn to feel love for difficult humans. The same consciousness that can recognize the divine spark in a tiny bird can learn to see that same spark shining in every human face, even those that seem lost in darkness or pain. Start with the animals, my friend. Let them teach you how to love without condition, how to forgive without keeping score, how to be present without agenda. These lessons will naturally expand to encompass all your relationships, making you a more loving spouse, parent, friend, and member of the human community. Second, use your growing awareness of animal consciousness as a gateway to feeling the sacredness of all life. When you can truly see that a flower has consciousness, that a tree is a living being deserving of respect, that the earth itself is a conscious entity providing for countless forms of life, you begin to live with the reverence that is the foundation of all spiritual wisdom. This reverence changes how you walk on the earth, how you consume resources, how you relate to nature, how you see your place in the vast web of existence. You begin to live more lightly, more gratefully, more consciously, recognizing that you are not separate from the natural world but intimately connected to every aspect of creation. Third, let your love for animals inspire you to serve life in whatever way calls to your heart. Some people are drawn to work directly with animal rescue and rehabilitation. Others find their calling in environmental protection, sustainable agriculture, or education about the connections between human and animal welfare. Still others serve by living simply and consciously, reducing their impact on other creatures while radiating the peace and love that comes from recognizing the divine presence in all life. There is no one right way to serve. Follow your own inner guidance and natural inclinations, but let your service be an expression of your understanding that all souls are precious and deserving of protection and love. Remember always that consciousness is evolving, and you are part of that evolution. Every moment of recognition you offer to an animal soul, every act of kindness you show to a creature in need, every decision you make from love, rather than convenience, contributes to the awakening of human consciousness to its true relationship with all life. You may not see the immediate results of your compassionate actions, but in the invisible realms where souls meet and influence each other, your love creates ripples that extend far beyond your ability to measure or imagine. The dog you rescue, the bird you save, the horse you treat with respect and affection, they carry the blessing of your love with them on their spiritual journey, and that love becomes part of their capacity to trust and serve when they encounter other souls who need their gifts. In this way, love multiplies and spreads through the network of consciousness that connects all beings. Your kindness to one creature makes all creatures a little more open to receiving love from humans. Your recognition of animal souls as precious and sacred makes it easier for other humans to have that same recognition. As we conclude our conversation today, I want to offer you a special blessing and invitation. Whether you currently share your life with animal companions or not, whether you live in the city or countryside, whether you feel confident in your ability to serve or uncertain about how to begin, you have everything you need to start living this truth of animal souls immediately. Begin tomorrow morning with the practice of sacred recognition. As you go through your day, pause whenever you encounter any creature, even if it's just a pigeon on the sidewalk or a spider in your bathroom, and silently acknowledge the divine spark within that being. Send them love and blessing, even if only for a few seconds. Notice how this simple practice begins to open your heart and expand your awareness. Watch how animals begin to respond differently to your presence as your consciousness becomes more loving and respectful. Observe how your own capacity for joy and wonder increases as you recognize the miraculous nature of the life that surrounds you constantly. If you have lost beloved animal companions, begin tonight with the practice of communion with animal spirits. Set aside time to consciously connect with their continued existence and love. Let them help you understand that death is not an ending, but a graduation to greater freedom and joy. And starting immediately, look for ways to live with greater compassion toward all creatures. Small changes made with love and consciousness create more positive impact than dramatic gestures made from ego or social pressure. Follow your heart, move at your own pace, but do begin the journey of aligning your daily choices with your understanding of the sacredness of all life. Remember, dear soul, that every creature, great and small, carries the same divine spark that lives within you. Animals are not lesser beings placed here for our convenience and use. They are our brothers and sisters on the path home to God, teaching us through their pure hearts what we sometimes forget in our complex minds. How to love without condition, how to live without fear, how to trust in the benevolent intelligence that guides all existence. In every dog's loyalty, you can see a reflection of God's faithfulness to every soul who seeks divine love. In every cat's graceful independence, you witness the soul's inherent freedom and dignity. In every bird's joyous song, you hear an echo of the music that fills the celestial realms. In every gentle creature's trust, you find a reflection of the childlike faith that opens the kingdom of heaven. The next time you look into an animal's eyes, remember what you have learned today. See beyond the physical form to the eternal soul within. Recognize that you are in the presence of consciousness itself, wearing a different costume but sharing the same essential nature as your own deepest self. Send that soul your blessing, your recognition, your love. In doing so, you bless not only that precious creature but your own spiritual development as well. For in learning to see God in the humblest animals, we prepare our hearts to see God everywhere, in every human face, every flower blooming, every star shining in the infinite sky above. This is the vision of the truly awakened soul, the vision that transforms ordinary life into constant prayer, constant wonder, constant love. This is the gift that our animal companions offer us if we have eyes to see and hearts to receive their teaching. I see the light of God shining equally in all beings. In every dog's loyalty, every cat's independence, every bird's freedom, every creature's capacity for love, I recognize the one divine consciousness expressing itself in countless beautiful forms. We are all one family, all children of the same cosmic mother and father, all journeying together toward the light that is our source and our destination. May this understanding bring you peace in times of loss, transforming grief into gratitude for love shared and continued in higher realms. May it bring you joy in daily encounters with our animal friends, opening your eyes to the constant miracles of consciousness that surround you every moment. May it deepen your sense of purpose and connection, helping you realize that you are part of a magnificent web of awakening souls, all serving each other's highest good. May you walk through life with eyes wide open to the sacred presence that dwells in every living thing, from the tiniest ant going about its mysterious business to the mightiest whale singing in the ocean depths. May you become a blessing to every creature you encounter, and may they become blessings to you, teaching you through their pure example how to embody the love that you are. If this teaching has touched your heart and expanded your understanding, please subscribe to receive more ancient wisdom from modern souls searching for truth and meaning in our complex world. Give this video a like if you feel differently about animals now, if you see them with new eyes of recognition and respect. Most importantly, share in the comments about a special animal who has been your teacher. Tell us about the dog who taught you about loyalty, the cat who showed you how to find peace in simple moments, the bird whose song lifted your spirit in dark times, or any creature whose presence brought unexpected gifts to your life. Your story might be exactly what another soul needs to hear today. Someone who has recently lost a beloved pet might find comfort in your words. Someone who has never considered that animals have souls might have their consciousness opened by your experience. Someone who feels alone in their love for creatures might discover a community of kindred spirits who share their reverence for all life. We are all connected in this great web of awakening consciousness, and by sharing our experiences of divine love expressing itself through our animal companions, we help each other remember the truth of our unity with all creation. Until we meet again in the eternal space where all souls are one, may you see God's love reflected in every creature's eyes. May you feel the blessing that flows through every genuine connection between souls, whether they wear human form or walk on four legs or fly through the sky on wings of wonder. May your life become a prayer of gratitude for the incredible gift of existence in this world, where consciousness expresses itself in such infinite variety and beauty. And may every animal who crosses your path feel the warmth of recognition and love that you carry in your awakened heart. Peace. Amen. The noise of this world has made humanity forget the most powerful force in the universe, the creative silence of God within you. In the next few hours, I will prove to you that silence is not emptiness, but the womb of all creation. When you learn to commune with this divine silence through these 20 practices, your soul will begin to radiate a light so bright that darkness cannot touch you. My beloved friend, I know your heart aches with a longing you cannot name. I know your mind feels like a monkey jumping from branch to branch, never finding rest. You wake in the morning already exhausted by the weight of thoughts that never cease. You've tried meditation apps that promise instant peace. You've read spiritual books that fill your head with beautiful ideas but leave your heart still empty. You've attended workshops and seminars, hoping someone would finally give you the key to unlock the prison of your restless mind. Yet still, you feel disconnected from the divine. The world's noise drowns out your soul's whisper, leaving you anxious and unfulfilled. You sense there's something greater calling you, but can't hear it clearly through the static of modern life. I understand this pain intimately because I too once lived in that darkness. As a young man in India, I felt this same desperate hunger for God, this same confusion about why the divine seemed so distant when the scriptures promise God lived within my very heart. I spent years searching in temples and ashrams, studying with learned teachers, performing elaborate rituals, thinking that if I just found the right technique or the perfect guru, I would finally touch the face of the beloved. For over 4 decades now, I have been blessed to guide souls from darkness into light. Not through my own power, I am nothing more than dust at the feet of the divine, but through these timeless practices that have transformed lives for thousands of years, I am simply a postman, delivering letters from the divine to your waiting heart. These letters have been written in the language of silence since the beginning of time, and they contain everything your soul has been longing to hear. Many people believe silence means emptiness, the absence of something valuable. They think it's boring, pointless, a waste of time that could be spent doing something productive. But I tell you with absolute certainty, silence is the fullness of God. It is not empty space but pregnant possibility. It is not the absence of sound but the presence of the divine speaking in the language that existed before words were ever spoken. Others think that spiritual practices are complicated rituals, meant only for monks and nuns who have renounced the world. They believe you must retreat to a cave in the Himalayas or spend decades studying ancient texts in foreign languages to touch the hem of God's garment. These 20 practices I will share with you today are so simple that a child could understand and perform them, yet so profound they will transform your entire existence from the inside out. When you faithfully practice these silent disciplines, and I mean faithfully, not perfectly, for perfection is not required, only sincerity, you will experience a luminous peace that radiates from within you, so visible that others will see it glowing in your very presence. You will receive intuitive guidance that leads you to right action in every situation, as if an invisible hand were guiding your steps along the path of greatest good. You will feel the magnetic attraction of divine opportunities and soul connections, as people and circumstances align themselves to support your highest spiritual growth. You will discover an unshakable faith that sustains you through any storm life may bring, a faith not built on beliefs or concepts but on direct personal experience of God's love surrounding and filling you always. Most beautiful of all, you will know the indescribable joy of recognizing yourself as God's beloved child, never separate from the divine for even one instant, eternally held in arms of infinite compassion. Let me share with you a story that will open your heart to what awaits you on this sacred journey. In a village in ancient India, there lived a master gardener whose garden was renowned throughout the land for its extraordinary beauty. People would travel for days just to witness the miracle of his flowers, which seemed to glow with an inner light that no other gardener could replicate. The roses were more fragrant than any that had ever bloomed, the jasmine more delicate, the lotuses more pristine. Even the simple grass in his garden seemed to shimmer with life force. Visitors from around the world came constantly to learn his secrets. They examined his soil, analyzed his water, studied the position of his plants in relation to the sun and moon. They offered him great sums of money for his fertilizer formula, his planting techniques, his methods of pruning and watering, but the master gardener would only smile mysteriously when pressed for his secrets. One day, a young seeker arrived who was different from the rest. Instead of demanding immediate answers, he simply asked if he could sit quietly in the garden for a while. The master gardener was pleased by this request and invited him to stay as long as he wished. The young seeker came every day for a month, sitting in silence among the flowers, simply absorbing the peace and beauty that surrounded him. Finally, the master gardener approached him and said, "You are the first visitor who has not demanded my secrets. Because of this, I will share with you what I have never told another soul." He led the young seeker to his house before dawn the next morning. In the pre-dawn darkness, they walked together to the garden, where the master began his daily work. But this was unlike any gardening the young seeker had ever witnessed. The master did not immediately begin planting or watering or pruning. Instead, he sat in perfect stillness among his flowers for a full hour, his eyes closed, his breathing so gentle it barely moved his chest. Then, rising slowly, he began to move through the garden with incredible tenderness, touching each plant with the reverence one might show a sleeping child. Most remarkably, he worked in complete silence. No humming, no muttering to himself, no mental planning or analyzing. He simply moved from plant to plant, feeling each one's needs with his hands, his heart, his entire being. He would pause before a rose bush and stand motionless for long minutes, as if listening to something the young seeker could not hear. Then he would water it, or prune it, or simply whisper a blessing so soft it was barely audible. "This is my secret," the master finally explained as the sun began to rise. "Every morning, I commune with each plant in the language that existed before words were spoken, the language of silence, of love, of divine understanding. In silence, I hear what each flower is trying to become. I feel its deepest desire and help it fulfill its divine purpose. I do not impose my will upon my garden. Instead, I listen to the will of God flowing through every leaf, every petal, every root, and I become a servant to that divine intention." The young seeker was amazed. "But how do you learn this language of silence?" he asked. The master smiled and replied, "The same way you learn to speak with words, my child, through practice, patience, and faith that the capacity already exists within you. Your soul already knows this language perfectly. It is your mind that has forgotten how to listen. Your soul, dear friend, is that garden, and these 20 practices I will teach you are your tools of silent communion. Just as the master gardener awakened before dawn to tend his flowers in sacred silence, you too must learn to tend the garden of your consciousness when the world sleeps and your soul can speak freely, uninterrupted by the demands and distractions of daily life. This story reminds me powerfully of my own awakening as a young seeker in India. Every morning at 4 o'clock, I would rise from my simple bed in the ashram and make my way through the sleeping streets to the banks of the sacred Ganges River. In the pre-dawn darkness, with only the stars as witnesses, I would sit on the stone steps leading down to the holy water and practice what I am about to teach you today. For months, I disciplined myself in these silent practices, sometimes feeling nothing but the restlessness of my mind, sometimes drowning in doubt about whether God even existed or cared about one small seeker's desperate prayers. There were mornings when every fiber of my being rebelled against sitting still, when my thoughts raced like wild horses refusing to be tamed. There were days when I felt like I was talking to an empty sky, pouring out my heart to a universe that seemed deaf to my longing. But my guru had taught me that consistency matters more than perfection, that showing up faithfully matters more than feeling inspired. So I continued my daily appointment with the divine, even when, especially when, I felt like giving up. I learned that spiritual practice is not about feeling good or having profound experiences every day. It is about training the soul to remember its true nature, regardless of the mind's temporary moods and reactions. Then one morning, after months of faithful silence, something extraordinary happened that changed the entire course of my life forever. As I sat by that holy river in the hushed moments before dawn, something shifted in my consciousness like a door opening that had been locked for lifetimes. The water before me began to speak to me, not with words that physical ears could hear, but with wisdom that flowed directly into my heart like liquid light, like pure knowing that bypassed the mind entirely. The river taught me that it had been flowing for thousands of years, carrying the prayers of millions of pilgrims, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, yet never struggling against its banks, never forcing its way forward. It flowed because it surrendered completely to the divine law that pulls all things back to the ocean of God. It taught me that resistance creates suffering, but surrender creates miracles. In that moment of perfect silence, I realized with crystalline clarity that the divine had been calling me all along through every sunrise I had ever witnessed, every gentle breeze that had ever caressed my face, every beat of my heart since the day I was born. The voice of the beloved had been whispering continuously, "You are mine, and I am yours. You have never been separate from me, not for one instant. This feeling of separation is just a dream from which you are now awakening." I understood then that all my years of searching had not been about finding God, but about removing the obstacles that prevented me from recognizing the God who had never left my side. This is the true power of silence, my friend. It does not create the divine within you. That divine presence is your very essence, closer than your breath, more intimate than your heartbeat. Silence simply removes the static that prevents you from hearing what was always there, like clearing mud from a spring so the pure water can flow freely once again. Let me tell you about Dr. Sarah Williams, a brilliant physician who came to me 3 years ago carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was in her early 40s, at the top of her profession, respected by colleagues and beloved by patients. Yet when she sat in my simple room and removed the mask of competence she wore for the world, I saw before me a soul dying of spiritual starvation. Dark circles ringed her eyes from years of sleepless nights in hospital corridors. Her hands, so skilled at healing others, trembled slightly from the chronic stress of holding life and death decisions every day. Though she saved lives daily, she felt empty inside, like a well that had run completely dry. The joy that had once made her dream of becoming a doctor had been buried under an avalanche of paperwork, insurance battles, and the relentless pressure to see more patients in less time. "Master," she said to me with tears streaming down her face, "I became a doctor because I wanted to heal people, to ease suffering, to be an instrument of God's love in the world. But I feel like I'm dying inside. My marriage is falling apart because I have no energy left for my husband. My children barely know me because I'm always at the hospital. My patients get the best of my medical knowledge, but I feel like a robot going through the motions. What good am I to anyone if I have no life left in me to give?" I listened to her pain with the same attention I might give to a sacred text, knowing that her suffering was not unique but shared by millions of people in our modern world who have forgotten how to nourish their souls. I could see that she was a good woman, a sincere seeker who had simply lost her way in the complexity of contemporary life. Her heart was still pure, but it had been buried under layers of exhaustion, worry, and the false belief that she had to carry all of life's burdens alone. I taught her to begin each day with just 5 of these silent practices I will share with you. Nothing complicated, nothing that required the hours of time she didn't have. Simply 5 minutes of sacred silence before her day began, sitting quietly in her car in the hospital parking lot before entering the building, just breathing and remembering that she was more than her job title, more than her responsibilities, more than the role she played in the world. I taught her to practice breath awareness while walking between patient rooms, silently blessing each person she encountered, offering her worries to the divine during quiet moments throughout her day. Before sleep, she learned to spend 5 minutes in wordless gratitude, not thinking grateful thoughts, but letting gratitude fill her heart like warm honey, appreciating the gift of another day in service to God through service to others. "But Master," she protested, "how can such simple practices possibly change anything? I need major solutions for major problems." I smiled and replied, "My dear daughter, it is not the size of the practice that matters, but the sincerity of the heart that performs it. A single candle can light up an entire dark room. These small moments of silence are candles that will gradually illuminate your entire life." Within 3 weeks, something remarkable began to happen that surprised even me with its rapidity. "Doctor," Sarah's patients started commenting on a change they could see but couldn't quite name. "Doctor," they would say, "there's something different about you lately. You seem so calm and peaceful. Just being in your presence makes me feel better." Her colleagues noticed it too. "Sarah," they said, "what's your secret? You look 10 years younger, and somehow your presence in this chaotic hospital has changed the entire atmosphere of our unit." Her husband called me after 2 months to thank me. "I don't know what you taught my wife," he said, "but she's like a different person. She comes home exhausted from work, but there's a light in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. She actually has energy for our conversations, patience with our children, and she seems to have found some source of peace that sustains her through even the most difficult days." 6 months later, "Doctor, Sarah told me something I will never forget. Master, I understand now what you meant when you said silence is not emptiness but fullness. In those quiet moments each morning and evening, I fill up with something I can't name but can't live without anymore. It's like discovering that I've been trying to run on empty when there was a gas station inside my heart all along. And somehow, that fullness flows through me to everyone I touch throughout the day." A year after beginning her practice, Doctor, Sarah was promoted to head of her department. Her marriage had deepened into the spiritual partnership she had always dreamed of, and she had begun teaching meditation to other healthcare workers. Most importantly, she had rediscovered the sacred calling that had originally drawn her to medicine. This is the power of a soul that has learned to commune with divine silence. It transforms not only the practitioner but everyone whose life they touch. But stories alone cannot transform you, my dear friend. Now I must share with you the deeper principles that make these practices so powerfully transformative, so that you understand not just what to do, but why these simple acts of silence can literally cause your soul to glow with divine radiance. The first principle you must understand is that silence is God's native language. We human beings think in words, speak in sentences, and try to capture the infinite in the tiny boxes of our vocabulary. But God communicates through a language that existed before the first word was ever spoken. The language of direct knowing, of love that needs no explanation, of peace that passes all understanding, of wisdom that flows like water from the source of all knowledge. When you sit in true silence, not just the absence of sound, but the presence of divine awareness, you begin to remember this ancient language that your soul has always known but your mind has forgotten. It's like tuning into a radio station that broadcasts constantly with the most beautiful music ever composed, but that we can only hear when we turn down all the other noise competing for our attention. I want you to understand clearly the difference between empty, quiet, and pregnant silence, because this distinction will determine whether your practice becomes transformative or merely restful. Empty quiet is what happens when you simply stop talking or turn off the television or find yourself alone in a soundproof room. It's the absence of noise, but it's not necessarily sacred. It might be peaceful, but it doesn't necessarily connect you to the divine source within you. Pregnant silence, on the other hand, is full of divine potential, vibrating with creative possibility. It's like the moment just before dawn when the whole world holds its breath, waiting for the sun to be born from the womb of night. It's the silence in a mother's belly where a new life grows in perfect trust, nourished by forces beyond comprehension. It's the pause between heartbeats where eternity lives, the space between thoughts where infinity dwells, the stillness between breaths where the soul touches its source. When you learn to rest in this pregnant silence through the practices I will teach you, you create space for divine communication to occur. God doesn't need to shout to get your attention, the divine whispers constantly, but we must become quiet enough to hear. In my years of communing with the divine in silence, I have experienced what the ancient scriptures call the soundless sound, the original vibration of creation itself humming with love and intelligence, the cosmic aum that reverberates through every atom of existence. This brings me to the second fundamental principle, your soul's natural radiance. My beloved friend, you must understand with every cell of your being that you are not trying to create light within yourself through these practices. The light is already there, has always been there, and will always be there regardless of what you do or don't do. You are a spark of the divine fire, temporarily clothed in flesh but eternally made of the same substance as the stars that light the night sky. The ancient scriptures tell us that we are made in the image of God, but most people think this means we look like God physically. The deeper truth is that we share God's essential nature. We are consciousness, we are love, we are light itself playing in the theater of matter and time. The problem is not that your light has gone out or that you lack something that others possess. The problem is that this radiant essence has been covered by layers upon layers of noise, worry, distraction, and the false belief that you are separate from your source. It's like a magnificent lamp that burns with the brightest light imaginable, but someone has wrapped it in thick blankets until only the faintest glow can be seen. These 20 silent practices I will teach you are not about creating new light. They are about removing the blankets, one by one, with infinite patience and gentleness, until your natural radiance shines forth unobstructed for all the world to see. This is why the great saints throughout history, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Moses, Saint Francis, Ramakrishna, appear to literally glow with inner light in the paintings and sculptures that depict them. The artists weren't using their imagination or adding halos for decorative effect. They were trying to capture something real that they perceived with their inner vision, the natural luminosity of souls that have remembered their divine nature. These saints haven't gained something the rest of us lack. They haven't been specially chosen by God to receive gifts denied to others. They have simply practiced removing the veils that hide the truth of what we all are. Children of infinite light, temporarily playing in the theater of matter, pretending to be separate from our source while never actually being separate for even one instant. When you consistently practice communing with silence, something beautiful begins to happen in your consciousness that affects not only your inner experience, but your entire outer life as well. Your energy starts to vibrate at a higher frequency, one that naturally attracts harmony, love, peace, and divine opportunities. This is the third principle I must share with you, sacred magnetism. You've probably noticed in your life that some people just seem to draw good things to them naturally, effortlessly. Opportunities find them rather than them having to chase opportunities. Loving people are attracted to them like iron filings to a magnet. Resources appear just when they need them most. They seem to walk through life with an invisible shield that protects them from the worst of human negativity and conflict. Money flows to them, meaningful work finds them, harmonious relationships bless their lives. This isn't luck, my friend, and it's not because they were born under a lucky star or possess some secret that others don't. It's the law of attraction operating at the soul level, far beyond the superficial understanding that has become popular in recent years. When you align your consciousness with the peace and love that flows through divine silence, you become like a magnet for all the good that the universe wants to give you. But understand, this is very different from egomagnetism, where we try to use spiritual techniques to attract things that satisfy our personal desires and ambitions. That approach often works temporarily, but it ultimately leads to disappointment because it's based on the false belief that external things can provide lasting fulfillment. Soul magnetism, on the other hand, draws to us exactly what we need for our highest spiritual growth and our ability to serve others with greater love. This happens because silence teaches us to surrender our small will to God's infinite wisdom. Instead of demanding that life conform to our limited understanding of what we think we need, we learn to trust that the divine knows what will bring us true happiness in spiritual evolution. We stop trying to force outcomes and instead become vessels through which divine will can express itself. Paradoxically, when we stop grasping desperately for what we think we need, life begins to shower us with blessings we never could have imagined or planned. When we release our tight control over how things should unfold, we discover that God's plan for us is infinitely more beautiful than anything our small minds could have conceived. Now, my dear friend, let me teach you the 20 sacred practices that will awaken this divine radiance within you and transform your life from the inside out. I have organized them into 3 groups, each serving a different aspect of your spiritual awakening, each building upon the others like steps on a ladder leading to divine union. The first 7 practices are what I call silent communion. These are the foundation practices that teach your soul to recognize and rest in the presence of God within you. They are designed to establish a consistent connection with the divine source, creating channels through which divine love and wisdom can flow into your daily experience. Practice number 1. Dawn silent sitting. This is perhaps the most important practice I will teach you, because it sets the spiritual tone for your entire day. Every morning before the sun rises and before you do anything else, before checking your phone, before reading the news, before your mind becomes occupied with the day's responsibilities, sit quietly for 5 to 20 minutes in a place where you will not be disturbed. You don't need a special cushion or shrine or room designated for meditation, though these things can be helpful if you have them. You can sit on the edge of your bed, in your car, in the driveway, on your porch, anywhere that feels peaceful to you. The important thing is consistency, not perfection. Choose a time and place that you can maintain every single day, regardless of your schedule or how you feel. Don't try to meditate in the formal sense or control your thoughts or achieve any particular state of consciousness. Simply sit and be present with whatever arises in your awareness. Let this be your daily appointment with the divine, sacred time when you remember who you really are. Before the world tells you who you should be, when you reconnect with your essence before you put on the mask of personality that you wear in your daily interactions. If thoughts arise, don't fight them. If emotions surface, don't suppress them. If your body feels restless, don't force it to be still. Simply witness whatever is happening with the same gentle attention you might give to watching clouds pass across an open sky. You are not trying to achieve anything during this time. You are simply being present to the miracle of existence itself. Practice number 2. Breath awareness without counting or controlling. Several times throughout your day, perhaps once each hour, simply become aware that you are breathing. Don't try to breathe deeply or slowly or in any particular pattern. Don't count your breaths or time them or analyze them. Just notice the miracle that breath is happening through you without any effort or intention on your part. This simple awareness connects you to the life force that flows through all creation. The same power that makes the flowers bloom and the planets orbit the sun is breathing you right now. The Sanskrit word for breath, prana, means life force or divine energy. When you become conscious of your breathing, you are touching the very current of life that sustains the universe. You can practice this while walking, while waiting in line, while listening to someone speak, while doing almost any activity that doesn't require your complete mental focus. It's a way of remembering throughout the day that you are not separate from the vast web of life that surrounds and supports you always. Practice number 3. Heart center meditation with divine love. Several times each day, place your hand gently on your heart and imagine breathing in and out through this sacred center of your being. With each breath, let yourself feel surrounded by and filled with unconditional love. Don't try to manufacture this feeling with your mind. Simply, open your heart and allow love to fill the space you create. This practice awakens what the yogis call the heart chakra, the energy center where the soul's light shines brightest. When you consistently focus loving attention on your heart center, you begin to experience yourself as a being made of love rather than a being seeking love from external sources. You realize that love is not something you need to earn or find or create. It is your very nature, always available, always flowing, always seeking expression through you. Practice number 4. Walking meditation in nature. At least once each day, if possible, walk slowly in a natural setting, even if it's just around one tree in your yard or through a small park in your neighborhood. If you live in a city with no access to nature, you can practice this by walking slowly anywhere outdoors, focusing your attention on the sky above you and remembering your connection to the natural world. Walk without destination, without purpose other than to connect with the earth that supports you and the sky that shelters you. Let each step be a prayer of gratitude. Feel your feet making contact with the ground and remember that the same earth that holds you up holds up the mountains and the oceans. Look at the sky and remember that the same space that surrounds you extends to embrace every star in the universe. This practice helps you remember that you are not separate from nature, but are nature expressing itself in human form. The same intelligence that grows the trees and moves the clouds flows through your body and mind. When you walk consciously in nature, you remember your place in the cosmic family and feel held by forces much larger and more loving than anything your human mind can comprehend. Practice number 5. Silent gratitude practice. Before you eat any meal, no matter how simple or hurried, pause for at least 30 seconds in wordless appreciation for the food before you. Don't think specific grateful thoughts or recite lists of things you're thankful for. Instead, let gratitude fill your heart like warm honey, sweet and golden and nourishing. Feel appreciation not just for the food itself, but for all the hands that brought it to you, the farmers who planted the seeds, the earth that nourished the crops, the rain that watered them, the sun that ripened them, the workers who harvested them, the drivers who transported them, the people who prepared and served them. Let yourself feel connected to this vast network of service and support that makes your life possible. This practice transforms eating from a mere physical necessity into a communion with the divine source that sustains all life. When you eat with conscious gratitude, your food becomes blessed and blesses you in return, nourishing not just your body but your soul as well. Practice number 6. Listening to the silence between thoughts. Throughout your day, begin to notice the small gaps between your thoughts, those tiny moments when your mind is still, when one thought has ended and the next has not yet begun. Instead of immediately rushing to fill these gaps with more thinking, learn to rest in them like a traveler resting in a shady grove on a hot day. These moments of mental stillness are precious gifts, doorways to the infinite silence that underlies all thought and activity. At first, you may only notice these gaps for a split second before your mind starts chattering again. That's perfectly normal and natural. With practice, you'll begin to recognize these moments more frequently and rest in them more deeply. This is where you touch eternity in the midst of time, where you contact the part of yourself that never changes regardless of what's happening in your life. The more you learn to rest in these gaps, the more you'll discover that your true nature is not the endless stream of thoughts and feelings that flow through your consciousness, but the awareness in which they appear and disappear. Practice number 7. Evening review and wordless reflection. Before sleep each night, sit quietly for 5 to 10 minutes and let the day's events pass through your awareness without judgment, analysis, or trying to solve problems or plan for tomorrow. Simply witness what happened with the same peaceful presence you might bring to watching a movie about someone else's life. Don't try to understand why things happened as they did or figure out what you should have done differently. Don't praise yourself for your successes or criticize yourself for your mistakes. Just observe the flow of events with compassionate detachment, like a loving grandparent watching a child play. This practice helps you release the day completely so you can sleep peacefully and wake refreshed. It also develops the witness consciousness that is essential for spiritual growth. The ability to observe your life from the perspective of your eternal soul rather than being completely identified with your temporary personality. The next 7 practices are silent service. These teach you to serve others and the world as expressions of divine love, without need for recognition, thanks, or any reward other than the joy of giving. These practices transform your daily activities into opportunities for spiritual growth and help you discover that serving others is actually the fastest way to realize your own divine nature. Practice number 8. Anonymous acts of kindness. Each day, do something kind for another person without them knowing it was you. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line and leave before they find out. Leave flowers on a neighbor's doorstep with no note. Secretly place money in the tip jar when no one is looking. Pick up litter in a park when no one can see you doing it. Send an anonymous gift to someone who is struggling financially. Let your service be a secret offering to God through God's children. This practice purifies your motivation for service, ensuring that you're not helping others to look good or feel important or receive gratitude. When you serve anonymously, you discover the pure joy of giving without any thought of return, which is the closest thing to divine love that human beings can experience. Practice number 9. Silent blessing of everyone you meet. As you go through your day, silently bless each person you encounter, even those who annoy you, frustrate you, or seem to be creating problems in your life. You don't need to think specific blessing thoughts or use particular words. Simply send them love from your heart to theirs, like a radio station broadcasting love on a frequency that souls can receive even when minds are busy with other things. This practice is incredibly powerful because it transforms your relationship with every human being from potential conflict to opportunity for love. When you silently bless difficult people, something miraculous happens. They often respond by becoming less difficult, as if they unconsciously sense the love you're sending them, and their own hearts begin to soften in response. Practice number 10. Wordless prayer for world peace. Each day, spend at least 5 minutes holding the whole world in your heart with love. Don't pray with words or ask for specific outcomes, or try to solve the world's problems with your mind. Simply radiate peace and compassion to all beings everywhere, like a candle sending its light into the darkness without worrying about how far that light will travel. Imagine your love as light spreading from your heart to embrace your family, your community, your country, and finally the entire planet with all its suffering and struggling creatures. This practice connects you to your role as a spiritual servant in the cosmic plan and helps you realize that your individual peace contributes to the peace of the whole world. Practice number 11. Silent forgiveness work. When someone hurts your feelings, betrays your trust, or makes you angry, don't immediately react with words or try to forgive them with your mind by thinking forgiving thoughts. Instead, sit quietly and let your heart soften toward them without forcing anything. True forgiveness happens in silence, when we remember that we are all children learning to love, all souls struggling to remember our divine nature. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat or allowing people to abuse you. Sometimes forgiveness requires setting firm boundaries or removing yourself from harmful situations. But the inner work of releasing resentment and opening your heart to compassion happens most effectively in the silence of prayer and meditation. Practice number 12. Caring for plants or animals without speaking. Spend time each day tending to some living being other than yourself. Water a plant, feed birds, pet a cat, tend a garden, without talking or even thinking in words. Let your love flow through your actions rather than your words. This connects you to the universal life force that animates all creation and helps you remember that the same divine spark that lives in you lives in every living thing. When you care for other creatures in silence, you often discover that they respond to your loving intention even more than to your actions. Plants seem to thrive under the care of people who tend them with silent love, and animals often become calm and trusting in the presence of someone who radiates peaceful energy. Practice number 13. Silent presence with those who suffer. When someone you know is in pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, resist the urge to offer advice or try to fix their problem with words. Instead, simply sit with them in loving silence, letting your peaceful presence be your gift to them. Often, silent love heals what words cannot touch. This is one of the most challenging practices for most people, because we feel so helpless when we can't solve someone else's problems. But there is tremendous healing power in simply being fully present with another person's pain without trying to change it or make it go away. Your willingness to witness their suffering with compassion creates a sacred space where their own healing can unfold naturally. Practice number 14. Sacred work done as worship. Whatever work you do, whether washing dishes, answering emails, building houses, teaching children, or running a corporation, offer it to God in silence. Let each task become a form of prayer, performed with the same reverence you would bring to the most sacred ritual. Remember that there is no work too humble to be offered to the divine, and no work so important that it cannot be done as an act of worship. When you work with this consciousness, several miraculous things happen. First, even the most mundane tasks become sources of spiritual fulfillment. Second, your work improves dramatically because you're no longer working just for money or recognition, but as an offering to the highest. Third, you discover that work can be a path to God rather than something that separates you from your spiritual life. The final 6 practices are silent surrender. These teach you to let go of the ego's need to control life and trust completely in divine wisdom. These are perhaps the most advanced practices, not because they're complicated, but because they require the greatest leap of faith and trust in God's infinite love and wisdom. Practice number 15. Offering worries to the divine without words. When anxiety, fear, or worry arises in your mind and heart, don't try to think your way out of it or solve the problem with mental effort. Instead, imagine taking your worry like a heavy stone and placing it in God's hands, then stepping back and letting divine wisdom handle what you cannot control or understand. You may need to do this practice many times throughout the day, Because the mind has a habit of picking up worries again like a child picking up toys it has been asked to put away. Each time you notice worry returning, simply offer it to God again with the same patience and trust. This practice teaches you that you are not responsible for solving every problem or controlling every outcome. Your job is to do your best and leave the results in divine hands. Practice number 16. Silent acceptance of what cannot be changed. When life presents you with circumstances beyond your control, illness, loss, other people's choices, natural disasters, economic upheaval, practice resting in peaceful acceptance without mental commentary or resistance. This doesn't mean being passive or failing to take appropriate action. It means acting from wisdom and love rather than from fear and struggle. True acceptance is not resignation or giving up. It's recognizing that fighting against reality causes additional suffering beyond what the situation itself requires. When you can accept what is happening without adding the extra layer of mental resistance, you often discover that solutions and opportunities appear that were invisible as long as you were fighting the situation. Practice number 17. Wordless devotion through sacred music or chanting. Let yourself be moved by beautiful music or sacred sounds without trying to understand or analyze them intellectually. Whether it's Gregorian chanting, Indian ragas, gospel music, or simply the sound of wind through trees, let the vibrations wash through you and awaken the natural devotion that flows between your soul and God. Music is one of the most direct paths to divine communion because it bypasses the analytical mind and speaks directly to the heart. When you listen to sacred music in a state of receptive silence, you often experience states of consciousness that would take years to achieve through mental meditation alone. Practice number 18. Silent communion with spiritual texts. When reading sacred writings, whether from your own religious tradition or from other wisdom traditions, pause frequently to absorb their meaning in silence rather than immediately moving on to the next sentence. Let the wisdom sink into your heart like rain soaking into thirsty earth. Don't read spiritual texts like you would read a newspaper or novel, trying to consume information as quickly as possible. Instead, read slowly, contemplatively, letting each insight transform your understanding before moving to the next. Often, a single sentence absorbed in silence can provide enough spiritual nourishment to sustain you for days. Practice number 19. Surrendering the fruits of action in silence. After completing any task, whether it's a major project at work or something as simple as preparing a meal, take a moment to silently offer the results to God. Whether you succeeded or failed by worldly standards, let go of attachment to the outcome and trust that all efforts made with love serve the divine plan in ways you may never understand. This practice frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to control how your actions will be received or what results they will produce. When you can work with full effort but without attachment to results, you discover a peace and freedom that makes every activity a source of joy rather than stress. Practice number 20. Sleeping as conscious surrender to divine will. As you prepare for sleep each night, consciously offer your rest to God. Let yourself fall asleep knowing that even in unconsciousness, you are held in divine love and that your dreams can be guided by infinite wisdom. This practice transforms sleep from mere physical rest into spiritual renewal. Many people are afraid of sleep because it represents a loss of control, a temporary death of the conscious ego. But when you approach sleep as surrender to the divine, you often find that you wake more refreshed, and that solutions to problems appear in your dreams or in the quiet moments just after waking. Now that you understand all 20 practices, let me show you exactly how to weave them into your daily life starting tomorrow morning. Because understanding them intellectually is only the beginning, the transformation comes through consistent, loving practice. The secret is not to try to do all 20 at once, which would overwhelm anyone and lead to discouragement. Instead, create what I call a sacred daily rhythm that honors both your spiritual aspirations and your practical limitations. For your morning foundation, choose 3 to 5 practices that speak most strongly to your heart right now. Perhaps you begin each day with dawn silence sitting for 10 minutes, followed by breath awareness as you prepare for your day, and heart center meditation before you leave your home. This foundation should take no more than 15 to 20 minutes total. And remember, we are not trying to become perfect meditators overnight. We are simply creating space for the divine to remind us who we truly are. The beauty of starting your day with silent practices is that they set a peaceful tone that influences everything that follows. When you begin in communion with the divine source within you, you find that you respond to challenges from a place of centered wisdom rather than reactive emotion. Problems that might normally upset you seem smaller and more manageable. People who might usually irritate you seem less threatening and more human. Throughout your day, create what I call midday reset moments. These are tiny pauses of 2 to 3 minutes where you practice one or two of the silent disciplines. Maybe you silently bless people while waiting in line at the store, transforming a potentially frustrating delay into an opportunity for spiritual service. Maybe you listen to the silence between thoughts while walking from one meeting to another, using those transition moments to reconnect with your divine center. Maybe you practice breath awareness while stuck in traffic, turning road rage into road meditation. Maybe you offer your worries to God while sitting at your desk, transforming workplace stress into opportunities for surrender and trust. These small moments of remembrance keep your soul connected to its divine source even in the busiest, most chaotic day. For evening integration, spend 5 to 10 minutes practicing reflection and surrender before sleep. Perhaps you do your wordless evening review, letting the day's experiences pass through your consciousness without judgment. Perhaps you practice silent gratitude for the lessons the day has taught you. Perhaps you offer any remaining worries to divine wisdom and practice sleeping as conscious surrender to God's will. This completes the circle of your day, ensuring that you go to sleep in a state of peace rather than carrying the day's tensions into your rest. When you sleep peacefully, you wake refreshed and ready to begin another day of spiritual practice and service. Start with just one practice tomorrow morning. Don't try to be heroic or prove your spiritual dedication by taking on more than you can realistically maintain. Choose the practice that feels most natural and appealing to you right now. Your soul knows its own needs and will guide you if you listen with an open heart. Practice this one discipline faithfully for one full week before adding a second practice. Then practice both for another week before considering a third. This gradual approach ensures that each practice becomes a natural part of your daily rhythm, rather than another burden you've added to an already busy life. You will face obstacles in establishing this practice, and I want you to be prepared for them so you don't become discouraged when they arise. The first and most common obstacle is mental resistance. When your mind rebels against silence and fills with extra chatter, the moment you try to be still, don't fight the thoughts or judge yourself for having them. Remember that the mind has been conditioned for years to be constantly active, constantly problem-solving, constantly entertaining itself with stories and plans and memories. When you suddenly ask it to be quiet, it may react like a child who has been told to sit still, with increased activity and rebellion. This is completely normal and temporary. Simply notice the thoughts with gentle amusement, like watching clouds pass across the sky or birds flying overhead. You are not trying to stop thinking. You are learning to stop being controlled by every thought that arises. The goal is not to empty your mind, but to change your relationship with your mental activity. The second common obstacle is physical restlessness. When your body feels uncomfortable during silent practices, remember that this restlessness is simply energy-seeking expression. Instead of immediately changing your position or giving up the practice, breathe into the feeling of discomfort without trying to change it, and you'll often find that it naturally settles like mud settling in still water. If you truly need to adjust your posture for health reasons, do so mindfully and gently, then return to stillness. But try to distinguish between genuine physical needs and the body's habitual resistance to being still. In our culture of constant movement and stimulation, learning to be comfortably still is itself a valuable spiritual discipline. The third obstacle is the belief that you cannot find silence if you live in a noisy environment. If your home is chaotic, if you live in a busy city, if you have small children who need constant attention, you might think these practices are impossible for you. But external silence, while helpful, is not essential for these practices. The silence we seek exists within you always, deeper than any surface noise. You can practice these disciplines even in the heart of a busy city by turning your attention inward to the stillness that exists at your core. Some of the greatest saints in history lived in the midst of worldly activity yet maintained perfect inner peace because they had learned to find the eye of the hurricane within themselves. You can practice breath awareness on a crowded subway. You can silently bless people in a noisy restaurant. You can offer your worries to God while children are playing loudly in the next room. The key is understanding that these practices are about inner orientation, not outer circumstances. Most importantly, maintain consistency without force. Be gentle with yourself, as loving and patient as you would be with a small child learning to walk. Some days your practice will feel inspired and profound, filled with peace and divine presence. Other days it may feel ordinary, difficult, or even pointless. Both experiences are valuable parts of your spiritual journey. What matters is showing up faithfully, day after day, trusting that the divine meets us in our sincere effort regardless of how we feel about our practice on any given day. Consistency creates a container within which transformation can occur naturally, like water gradually wearing smooth a rough stone. Don't measure your progress by dramatic spiritual experiences or sudden insights. Measure it by the gradual changes in how you respond to life's challenges, how you treat other people, how much peace you feel in your daily experience. The most profound spiritual growth often happens so gradually that you don't notice it until you look back and realize how much you've changed. How will you know when your soul is beginning to glow with divine radiance? The signs are unmistakable once you know what to look for, though they often appear gradually like the gentle arrival of dawn rather than like lightning illuminating the sky. First, you will notice an inner peace that others begin to comment on without being able to explain what they're observing. Friends and family will say things like, "There's something different about you lately," or "You seem so calm and centered," or "Just being around you makes me feel more peaceful." This inner peace becomes like a portable sanctuary that you carry with you everywhere, protecting you from the emotional storms that used to knock you off balance for days or weeks. This peace is not the absence of challenges or difficulties. Life will still present you with problems to solve and losses to grieve, but you'll find that you can remain centered and clear-minded even in the midst of chaos, like a deep lake that remains calm beneath the surface even when storms create waves on the surface. Second, you will begin receiving intuitive insights that guide you toward right action in every situation. You'll find yourself knowing instinctively just what to say to comfort someone who is hurting, or feeling clear inner guidance about which job to take, or which relationship to pursue, or how to handle a difficult family situation. This intuitive wisdom doesn't come through your logical mind. It arises from a deeper source of knowing that bypasses mental analysis entirely. You'll simply find yourself acting from wisdom you didn't know you possessed, saying things you didn't plan to say, making decisions that turn out perfectly, even though you couldn't have reasoned your way to them. Third, you will notice synchronicities and divine opportunities appearing in your life with increasing frequency. The right people will show up at exactly the right times. Doors will open that seemed permanently closed. Resources will appear just when you need them most. Solutions to long-standing problems will present themselves in unexpected ways. This is not coincidence or wishful thinking. It is the natural result of aligning your consciousness with the divine flow of life. When you stop fighting the current and learn to swim with the river of existence, you discover that the universe is constantly conspiring to support your highest good and spiritual growth. Fourth, you will develop a natural magnetism that draws goodness to you without any effort on your part. People will seek you out for advice and comfort, sensing something in your presence that they need even if they can't articulate what it island. Career opportunities will find you rather than you having to chase after them desperately. Love in all its forms, friendship, romance, family harmony, will flow toward you like water flowing naturally downhill. This magnetism is not based on anything you do or say. It's the natural radiance of a soul that has remembered its divine nature and learned to express that nature through peaceful presence and loving service to others. Finally, and perhaps most beautifully, you will discover effortless compassion flowing through you even toward people who used to trigger anger or frustration in you. Where once you might have felt irritated by difficult people, you will find yourself naturally seeing through their behavior to the pain or fear that drives it, and responding with kindness rather than reaction. This compassion won't feel forced or artificial. It will be as natural as breathing, because you will recognize the same divine spark in others that you have awakened in yourself. You'll understand that we are all souls struggling to remember our true nature, all children learning to love, all sparks of the same divine fire temporarily playing different roles in the cosmic drama. When someone is rude or inconsiderate, instead of taking it personally, you'll find yourself thinking, "This person is suffering and doesn't know how to express their pain in a healthy way. How can I respond with love while still maintaining appropriate boundaries?" This shift in perspective transforms every human interaction from potential conflict into opportunity for spiritual growth and service. My beloved friend, as we near the end of our time together today, I want you to remember this eternal truth that has sustained me through decades of teaching and will sustain you through whatever challenges and joys await you on your spiritual journey. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience, but but a spiritual being temporarily clothed in humanity for the purpose of learning to love more fully and serve more selflessly. These 20 silent practices are not disciplines to add to your already busy life like items on a to-do list. They are pathways home to your true nature, gentle reminders of who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and forgetting that have accumulated over years of living in a world that has forgotten its divine source. When you commune regularly with the silence of God within you, your soul begins to remember its divine inheritance and naturally radiates that remembrance as visible light, magnetic peace, and irresistible love. You don't have to try to glow. You simply have to remove the obstacles that hide the light you have always been. You don't have to create love. You simply have to clear away the barriers that prevent love's natural expression through you. The path is simple in its essence, but it requires the dedication of a sincere heart and the patience of a gardener who plants seeds in faith, knowing that with proper care, the harvest will come in divine timing. The rewards are beyond anything your human mind can imagine. Peace that surpasses understanding, love that knows no bounds, wisdom that flows like water from an inexhaustible spring, joy that no external circumstance can diminish. But these rewards can only be received by a heart that has learned to be still, by a soul that has remembered how to listen to the voice of the beloved speaking in the language of silence. Start tomorrow morning with one simple practice. Trust your soul's guidance about which one calls to you most strongly. And remember, every moment of sincere silence is a prayer, every breath of conscious awareness is a gift to your soul, and every act of surrendered service is a step closer to recognizing yourself as the radiant child of God that you have always been. The masters of old who achieved union with the divine were not superhuman beings with special powers. They were ordinary souls like you and me who simply refused to accept the world's definition of what was possible. They practiced these same timeless disciplines with the faith of children and the persistence of lovers, knowing that God responds to sincerity more than to perfection, to consistency more than to intensity, to love more than to technique. You have that same potential within you right now. The same divine spark that illuminated Jesus and Buddha and Krishna pulses in your heart at this very moment. The same infinite love that created the stars and sustains the universe flows through your breath as you listen to these words. The same wisdom that guides the migration of birds and the blooming of flowers is available to guide your every decision if you learn to listen in the sacred silence of your soul. Do not let another day pass in spiritual sleep when awakening is so close at hand. Do not postpone your homecoming to God when the door to that home exists in the silence of your own heart. Do not wait for some future moment when you will be more ready, more worthy, more prepared. The divine calls to you now, in this moment, with the same love that has been calling since before time began. Repeat with me now these words, and carry this truth in your heart like a flame that can never be extinguished. I am a child of the divine light, forever one with the source of all love and wisdom. In silence, I remember my true nature as pure consciousness, eternal peace, and unlimited love. My soul glows with the radiance of God, blessing all who come near me with the light that I am. I am peace itself. I am love itself. I am light eternal, temporarily wearing the costume of humanity, but never forgetting my divine identity. Let this affirmation become more than words. Let it become the foundation of your new life, the truth that guides your every breath, the reality you embody through these sacred practices until you no longer need to remember that you are divine because you can never again forget it. If these words have stirred your soul's memory of its divine nature, if they have awakened in you the longing for God that is the most beautiful thing a human heart can feel, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more timeless wisdom that can transform your life from the inside out. Click the like button if this teaching has resonated with your heart's deepest knowing, if it has reminded you of truths your soul has always known but your mind had temporarily forgotten. And please, I ask this from my heart to yours, share in the comments which of these 20 practices calls to your soul most strongly. Your sharing may be exactly what another seeker needs to hear to take the first step on their own journey home to God. We are all connected in the web of divine love, all helping each other remember who we truly are through our willingness to share our experiences and insights. Perhaps you will share how practicing dawn silent sitting has transformed your morning routine from rushed chaos to peaceful preparation for the day. Perhaps you will tell others how silently blessing difficult people has changed your most challenging relationships. Perhaps you will describe the peace you found through offering your worries to divine wisdom instead of carrying them like stones in your heart. Whatever you share, know that your words of encouragement and experience may be the very thing that gives another soul the courage to begin their own practice, to take their own first step toward the light that we all seek. In this way, your spiritual practice becomes not just personal transformation but service to the awakening of all humanity. Until we meet again in the silence of the heart, where all souls recognize their unity and all seeking comes to rest in the discovery that we have never been separate from what we seek. May divine love surround you like a protective light, may divine wisdom guide your every step, and may divine peace fill your heart so completely that it overflows as blessing to everyone whose life you touch. Remember always that you are not alone on this path. You are surrounded by the love of all the saints and sages who have walked this way before you, supported by the prayers of all sincere seekers who walk beside you now, and blessed by the infinite compassion of the divine who waits patiently for every child to come home. Begin with silence, my beloved friend. End with light. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and your single step begins with a single moment of sacred silence tomorrow morning when you sit quietly and remember who you truly are. Om peace, peace, peace. May all beings everywhere awaken to their divine nature. May all hearts overflow with love. May all souls shine with the light that can never be diminished. And may you, dear friend, discover in the silence of your own heart the treasure that you have been seeking throughout all your lives, the direct, immediate, unshakable knowing that you are eternally one with God. Before I leave you today, let me share one final story that will seal these teachings in your heart forever. There was once a young woman who came to me many years ago, carrying such darkness in her eyes that I could barely see the divine spark hidden beneath layers of pain and despair. She had lost her child in an accident, her marriage had crumbled under the weight of grief, and she felt that God had abandoned her completely. "Master," she whispered through tears, "everyone tells me that God loves me. But if that's true, why has my life become such a nightmare? Why do I feel so empty, so lost, so forgotten by the very divine that others say cares for me?" Her pain was so profound that it filled my simple room like a heavy fog, and I knew that only the most gentle approach could reach her wounded heart. I didn't give her 20 practices that first day. I gave her only one. Every morning, sit in silence for 5 minutes and simply breathe, not trying to pray or meditate or feel anything in particular, just breathing and allowing herself to be held by the mystery of existence itself. "I can't feel God's presence," she protested. "How will this help?" "My dear child," I replied, "you don't need to feel God's presence for God to be present. The sun shines on cloudy days even when you cannot see it. Your job is not to create God's love but simply to remove the clouds of grief and despair that are temporarily blocking your awareness of what was never absent." She practiced this single discipline faithfully for 3 months, sitting each morning in her kitchen as the sun rose, simply breathing and allowing her broken heart to be held in silence. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. The crushing weight of grief didn't disappear, but she found she could carry it with more grace. The questions about why tragedy had struck didn't get answered, but they became less urgent, less consuming. After 6 months, she returned to me with something I had not seen before, a faint glow around her eyes, like the first hint of dawn on a dark horizon. "Master," she said, "I don't understand what's happening to me. My circumstances haven't changed. My child is still gone, my marriage is still broken, my life is still difficult. But somehow, in those moments of silence each morning, I touch something that sustains me. I can't name it, but I know it's real." I smiled and said, "Now you are ready for the second practice." Gradually, over 2 years, I taught her all 20 disciplines, watching as her inner light grew stronger with each passing month. She began to glow with such radiance that other grieving parents started coming to her for comfort, drawn by something they couldn't identify but desperately needed. 5 years later, she had become one of my most effective teachers, helping hundreds of people navigate their own dark nights of the soul. "How did you do it?" they would ask her. "How did you find God in the midst of such tragedy?" And she would smile with the wisdom of someone who had walked through fire and emerged as light, saying, "I didn't find God. I simply stopped running from the silence where God was waiting for me all along." This is what awaits you, my beloved friend. Not the absence of life's challenges, but the presence of divine love strong enough to transform any challenge into an opportunity for deeper communion with your source. Not the elimination of human pain, but the discovery of a peace so profound that it can hold any pain without being diminished by it. The woman in this story, her name was Margaret, still practices these disciplines every day, 30 years later. She remarried, had another child, built a beautiful life filled with service and love. But she never forgot the lesson that silence taught her in her darkest hour, that we are never, ever alone, no matter how alone we might feel. The divine presence that sustained her through unimaginable loss is the same presence that breathes you right now, loves you right now, waits for you in the silence of your own heart right now. So as you begin this sacred journey tomorrow morning, remember Margaret. Remember that these practices work not because they are magical, but because they connect you to the magic that you are, the miracle of divine consciousness wearing human form, the wonder of infinite love learning to express itself through finite actions, the mystery of eternal light temporarily playing in the theater of time and space. Your soul knows the way home, dear friend. These 20 practices are simply road signs pointing you in the direction your heart has always wanted to go. Trust the process. Trust your soul's wisdom. Trust the divine love that brought these words to your attention at exactly the moment you needed to hear them. Begin tomorrow with whatever practice calls most strongly to your heart. Whether it's 5 minutes of dawn silence, or a moment of breath awareness, or silently blessing one person you encounter during your day, that single act of remembrance will set in motion a transformation that will bless your life and the lives of everyone you touch for years to come. I believe in you. More importantly, God believes in you. Most importantly of all, your own soul believes in you and has been guiding you toward this moment of readiness for countless years. The time for waiting is over. The time for awakening has begun. Until we meet again in the silence where all souls recognize their oneness, until that blessed moment when you no longer need teachers because you have found the divine teacher within your own heart, I wrap you in the light of infinite blessings and send you forth to glow with the radiance that has always been your true nature. Begin with silence, end with light. And remember always, you are so much more magnificent than you have ever imagined. Let these practices help you remember who you truly are. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, perfect peace.